Chapter 1080. Before Hu Batian could finish his greeting, he was about to shake alluring demon's hand. It was then that a handsome man dashed through the entrance of Tranquil Rhythm Hotel. The man pushed aside the people around him and slapped away Hu Batian's hand that was about to shake alluring demon's hand. "Don't touch my alluring demon, old man." Mare's handsome face appeared before everyone's eyes. Alluring demon heaved a deep sigh when she saw Mare, who appeared out of nowhere and held her forehead. Why was this man still haunting her? He had chased her all the way from Country M to Country Z's Longmen City. Was he done yet? When she was at Rongyao Company, Mare had been coming to her Rongyao Company all day long. Alluring demon felt a terrible headache coming on. Hu Batian's hand was slapped away by an unfamiliar man as he was about to shake the demoness hand. His eyes flashed with malice as he raised his head and met Mare's gaze. You. Hu Batian was still wondering who it was that dared to slap his hand away when he saw Mare's handsome face clearly. Mare. Hoggy Company's CEO, Mare. Hu Batian suppressed his heart that was about to jump out of his chest. He was so scared that he almost had dementia. Mare was Hoggy Company's CEO. What kind of existence was Hoggy Company? Due to its long history, Hoggy Company seemed to be even better than Rongyao Company. Today, even Hoggy Company's CEO was here. Moreover, looking closely at the group of bosses following Alluring Demon, each one of them was someone who was dozens of times more powerful than Hu Batian himself. There were at least a dozen of them here. Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun, who followed behind, were confused. "Uncle, what's wrong?"
Who are they?
Hu Chaochuan asked. "Uncle, could it be that these people are the reinforcements you've called?" Hua Yun did not know where her confidence came from. She was overjoyed, thinking that these people were Hu Batian's reinforcements. As soon as Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun finished their stupid words, Hu Batian resisted the urge to slap these two idiots to death. He roared at Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun in a muffled tone. "Shut up, you two." Teacher Liu, who was sitting at a table not far away, was dumbfounded. These people, all of them, were wearing expensive clothes at this moment. Teacher Liu suddenly saw Yun Jian walking over. Hu Batian and the other two were walking in the same direction as Yun Jian, so they didn't notice Yun Jian walking over. It was only when Hu Batian saw the enchantress greeting Yun Jian respectfully that he realized that Yun Jian was already standing not far behind him. At this moment, Yun Jian bypassed Hu Batian and stood in front of the demonic woman. Yun Jian nodded her head gently when she heard the demoness calling out to her. "Yes." The international bigwigs who stood beside Alluring Witch stared at Yun Jian in shock. This young lady could actually make Enchantress, the CEO of Rongyao Company, call her sister? Hu Batian was completely dumbfounded. "Uncle, what's going on?" Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun were getting more and more confused. At the same time, they had a bad feeling about this. Hu Batian was about to go crazy. If Yun Jian might have hired the 3 executive department leaders of Kosha mercenaries to back her up in the beginning, what was going on now? Enchantress was the real CEO of Rongyao Company. Why was she calling Yun Jian Sister Jian? Just as Hu Batian thought about it, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. One of the bosses standing beside Enchantress suddenly pointed at one of the 4 slender silhouettes that walked in and exclaimed, Isn't that one of the 4 leaders of an Hun group, Shuang? Shuang frequented major events, so it was easy to recognize him. Just as the boss spoke, one of the bosses who held a relatively high position continued with a trembling voice under everyone's gaze. "It's not just Shuang." "No, not just Shuang. If I'm not wrong, the 4 of them are the 4 leaders of an Hun." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. All the bosses widened their eyes, their faces pale from the shock. The 4 leaders of an Hun group each had their own responsibilities in the organization and rarely appeared together. Chapter 1081. At this moment, the 4 figures had already walked in side by side from the main entrance. Adam's injuries had completely healed, and he no longer needed Lan Su's support. Lan Su had spent more time with Qin Yiru, so he was still by Qin Yiru's side to provide support and had not arrived yet. The 4 leaders of the Yin and Hun organization. Compared to the group of big shots around him, Hu Beixian's heart was filled with a sense of horror, as if 10,000 horses were galloping past him.
Why?
How could it be? The 4 leaders of the Enhun organization were all here to attend Qin Yi's wedding? The Enhun organization was an existence that stood shoulder to shoulder with the Kosha mercenaries. And the 4 leaders of the Enhun organization represented the entire Enhun organization. As for the legendary leader of the Enhun organization, he was even more mysterious. Just as Hu Batian was in a daze, Ce helped Yun Yi hang the last wedding ribbon with his height advantage. He then casually walked over with his hands in his pockets. With Ce's help, as well as Dian Yi and the other 2 girls who Yun Jian had chased over to help, Yun Yi was able to set up the wedding venue in no time. At this moment, Ce was already walking towards Yun Jian. His handsome face slowly appeared in front of all the bosses. Ce's appearance in front of all the bosses did not cause any commotion. This was because his identity had never been exposed in front of all the bosses. Yun Jian and Demonis were standing face to face. Hu Batian was standing half a meter behind Yun Jian. The group of bosses watched as the 185 tall handsome young man walked over from afar and stopped not far away from the crowd. Ce's aura was very strong. It was so strong that everyone present could not ignore him. Which family was this young man from? Even in the face of so many international bosses and global business elites, his aura was not inferior at all. However, just as everyone present was thinking this, they saw Ce walk over. He saw Hu Batian standing half a meter behind Yun Jian. He successfully blocked himself and walked directly behind Yun Jian. Ce frowned slightly. His furrowed brows indicated that he was in a very bad mood. The leader of the Enhun organization was unhappy. This was a sign. Xue Ying and the other 3 who walked in through the entrance felt their hearts clench when they met Ce's gaze. As expected, Ce frowned and walked straight towards them. However, when Hu Batian blocked him from approaching Yun Jian, he did something terrifying. He reached out his left hand and grabbed the collar of Hu Beixian's back. Hu Batian, who did not even notice, was rudely thrown to the side. This way, he was able to reach Yun Jian without any obstructions. Then, he reached out his right hand and stood on Yun Jian's left. He grabbed Yun Jian's slender waist and declared his sovereignty. The group of bosses was stunned. Hu Batian was someone with some status. How could this young man be so fierce? On the other hand, Hu Batian lost his balance after being thrown out and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Hu Chaochuan saw this and did not immediately help him up. When he saw the uncle he admired the most fall to the ground, he turned and shouted at Ce, "Who do you think you are? Do you know who my uncle is? How dare you treat my uncle like this? I will make your life a living hell." He did not even finish the word die. Chapter 1082. This young master could be said to have suddenly entered the ears of everyone present. The appearance of the 4 leaders of the Kosha mercenaries here was already something that everyone present thought was inconceivable.
But that was not the most bizarre thing.
The most bizarre thing was that the 4 leaders of the Enhun organization actually called a young boy young master? Let's not talk about the meaning of this young master. It was rumored that the 4 leaders of the Enhun organization only listened to one person. Other than that, no one else in the entire world could defend their attitude towards others. But today, why would the 4 leaders of the Enhun organization, why would they call this young boy young master? All the big shots present were stupefied at the same time. As for Hu Chaochuan, who had pointed out that Ce was nothing, he was completely stunned. How could he not know what kind of people the 4 leaders of the Enhun organization were? They were the leaders of the Enhun organization. It could be said that even Dian Yi and the other 2 couldn't be compared to these 4 people. Not only did the 4 of them appear here at the same time, but more importantly, they called Ce, the young boy who had just pushed his uncle down, as young master? What did this mean? Not only were the leaders in front of him, Hu Chaochuan, Hu Batian, and Hua Yun stunned, even Demonic Woman and Mare were stunned. Although Miss Liu, who was not far away, did not know what was going on, as long as she was not an idiot, she could tell. The group of big shots standing there just now were all internationally renowned existences. How powerful were they? Even Hu Batian, who was one of the top 20 multinational companies in the world, had to look up to them and flatter them. But when they saw Shuang and the other three appear, this group of leaders who even Hu Batian had to look up to were like mice who had seen a tiger. They were all extremely respectful. But why would Shuang and the other three, whom even these leaders had to be respectful, use the same respectful tone and call Si young master? It was obvious that Si's identity was not ordinary. Teacher Lu's group was also dumbfounded. At this moment, Shuang and the other three turned to look at Yunjian after shouting at Si. At the same time, the four of them respectfully called out to Yunjian, "Young madam." The way he addressed her as young madam made everyone envious. Whether it was Si's looks, height, or his loving eyes for Yunjian, he was deeply attractive to every woman present. In particular, Shuang and the other three, who were not at a disadvantage in front of the international bigwigs, spoke to Si in such a respectful manner. This further proved that Si's identity was not to be trifled with. Therefore, the people present were even more envious of Yunjian. However, they only saw Yunjian gently nodding her head. Just when everyone thought that she would faint from excitement, she nodded her head and said to Shuang and the others, "Let's go in. It's been a busy day. You've worked hard." A busy day? Could it be that Yunjian had ordered the four leaders of the Enhan organization to work hard for a day? Oh my God! The faces of the bigwigs present changed instantly. Even their backs straightened. The bigwigs present naturally did not think that Ce was the leader of the Enhan organization. After all, he was so young. It was not that they did not believe it, but they did not dare to believe it. They did not know why the four leaders of the Enhan organization called Ce young master. But why would the four leaders of the Enhan organization willingly work for Yunjian for a day? Chapter 1083. While the bosses were still in shock, Adam, who stood furthest to the side, rubbed his head and chuckled at Yunjian. "It's not hard, not hard. How can it be hard?" "Ha!" Adam, one of the four leaders of Enhan group, was actually saying something like that to Yunjian. Moreover, his words were laced with flattery. "Let's go in," Yunjian replied with a nod with a smile. "Go, go, go. What are you waiting for? Young madam has spoken." Adam struck a pose coolly and took a step back. Then, like he was forcing a duck onto a perch, Adam opened his arms and slapped Shuang and Mo's son, who were closest to him, on the buttocks. He even put his hands on their shoulders with a grin and pushed them inside. Shuang and Mo's son's faces darkened at Adam's action of slapping their butts, but Lin Wei, who stood on the side, walked in alone. Lin Wei was in charge and training of Enhan's secret agents and assassins, so he was very capable to begin with. If he was not capable, he would not have been able to make Enhan's assassins and secret agents submit to him. Slaying God, the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking back then, was trained by Lin Wei. From slaying God's weakness in the beginning to her effortless victory over Lin Wei in the end, she learned all of this from Lin Wei. Lin Wei was strong, but at the same time, he was also a very cold person. A man of few words was Lin Wei's personal mark. Although Adam was skillful, he was no match for Lin Wei, who was always accompanied by assassins and secret agents. Moreover, Lin Wei was an impartial person. Adam believed that if he were to slap Lin Wei's buttocks, he would definitely be caught and beaten up on the spot. Shuang and Mo's son were slapped by Adam in public, but they did not do anything else. After Shuang, Mo's son, and Mo's son were led inside by Adam playfully, a luring demon shook off Mare, who had latched onto her wrist. It was only then that a luring demon went to Yunjian and told Yunjian, "Sister Jian, I'm going in too." With that said, the demoness got Yunjian's tacit approval and entered the arena with her body swaying. The group of big shots behind him scrambled forward to flatter him. Although Mare smiled helplessly after being shaken off by the demoness, he still chased after her with his long legs. Hu Batian, who had been dragged away by Ce, had already been helped up by Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun. Uncle, could it be that all these people today were hired by her? Not only was Hu Chaochuan short and fat, more importantly, he was brainless. When he saw this group of people heading inside noisily, he immediately recalled the time when Diane and the other two had appeared. His uncle had said that Diane and the other two were most likely hired by Yunjian to be her stunt performers. If that was the case, could it be that the group of people just now were all hired by Yunjian? It was just to go through the motions. You idiot! Stop talking so much. Hu Batian was not stupid to have made it this far. He slapped Hu Chaochuan harshly and bellowed. It was just that Hu Chaochuan's words had reached Yunjian and Ci's ears. Hu Batian was not as dumb as Hu Chaochuan. If Diane and the other two, the three leaders of the Kosha mercenaries, had appeared in the beginning, perhaps Yunjian could have hired them with some money. Then, all these people who came later, no matter who they were people that Yunjian could not hire even with money. Just as Hu Batian was thinking about it, he saw a man and a woman coming in from the entrance. The man was tall and muscular, while the woman was slender and enchanting. Chapter 1084. Hu Batian was considered an international big shot and had a high status in the world. Hu Batian had been to many international big shots gatherings and naturally recognized some of them. When the man and woman came in again, the man was burly and was almost 2 meters tall. The woman was seductive and had a slim figure. After seeing the two of them, Hu Batian was almost dumbfounded. These two weren't the elders of the Gu, Kosha mercenaries, Snake, Lizard and Tiger.
Leopard?
Why were they here?
Snake.
Lizard and Tiger. Leopard were the same as the four of them. They were the leaders of the Kosha mercenaries. Of course, in the Kosha mercenaries, Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard were not called leaders but elders. However, Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard's position in the Kosha mercenaries was the same as the four leaders of the Enhan organization. Uncle, who are they? Hu Chaochuan was slapped by Hu Batian, but he was not angry.
He thought about it and asked.
At the same time, Hu Chaochuan had a bad feeling. Huayan's heart became more and more complicated when she saw Hu Batian looking at the two people who came in with a frightened expression. Huayan wanted to bring her husband, Hu Chaochuan, to show off. If she could bring her husband's uncle, Hu Batian, along, she was sure to win. Ever since she found out that Qin Yuru was getting married to Gu Junjian, Huayan had been looking forward to this day. She was looking forward to the day she could bring her powerful and influential husband to show up and slap Qin Yuru in the face in terms of identity or status. She wanted to show Gu Junjian that she had found a man who was many times more powerful than him. What about you? Who do you think you are? But until this moment, Huayan realized how stupid it was for her to bring her husband and uncle here. Who could tell her why? Why was she Qin Yuru's daughter? Why was her ex-husband marrying the daughter of a poor woman from the countryside? How could she know so many international big shots? Any one of these big shots could crush her uncle, Hu Batian, whom she was proud of. Huayan's face was drained of color. Shut up. Hu Batian was close to tears from his dumb nephew. He slapped Hu Chaochuan again in an attempt to shut him up. After being slapped in the face, Hu Chaochuan shut his mouth. When Hu Chaochuan was slapped by Hu Batian, Huayan didn't react. Now Huayan finally reacted. Huayan pretended to rush to caress Hu Chaochuan's face. Hubby, are you okay? Oh my, it's all red. As soon as she finished speaking, Huayan caught a glimpse of her respected uncle, Hu Batian, running towards the snake, lizard and tiger, leopard like a pug. Why are you two here? Hu Batian lowered his head and asked cautiously. When the surrounding people heard the sound, they all looked over and were extremely surprised at the same time. Hu Batian looked at Hu Bluked at Hu Baishan's faces and looked at Hu Bluk's sister Jian. Both of them greeted respectfully when they stood in front of Yunjian, just like the others before them. Go on in. Yunjian nodded naturally.
Snake,
lizard and tiger. Leopard then went in without looking back. If the people present did not know the identity of this group of big shots, then they would know. Hu Batian would have the urge to kill himself right now. Of course, he knew. It was not a big deal for one or two of these big shots to come. Why were these people, both of them addressing Yun Jian as Sister Jian? They were led by the Kosha mercenaries.
Snake.
Lizard and Tiger. Leopard were elders of the Kosha mercenaries. They would only be so respectful to the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. Hu Batian's eyes widened as a horrifying thought popped up in his mind. Chapter 1085. Just as Hu Batian thought of this, he immediately shook his head. No, that's impossible. How old is this girl? How can she be the boss of Kosha mercenaries? Furthermore, the current boss of Kosha mercenaries killed the previous boss 2 to 3 years ago. If this girl is the boss of Kosha mercenaries, then how old was she when she took over Kosha mercenaries? 13? 14? God, children at that age were probably in junior high school. Some were even in primary school. How is that possible? Hu Batian immediately shook his head and eliminated this unrealistic thought. At this moment, Hua Yun's face could no longer be described as pale and bloodless. Back then, she had boasted in front of others that even the military tycoons who had dealings with Kosha mercenaries and an Han organization had attended her and Hu Chaochuan's wedding. Just a military tycoon who had dealings with Kosha mercenaries and an Han organization had attended her and Hu Chaochuan's wedding. Back then, Hua Yun was already so smug.
But now?
Qin Yiru and Ge Yunjian's wedding venue. The 2 elders of Kosha mercenaries had arrived. The 3 executive team leaders had arrived. The 4 leaders of an Han organization had arrived. Even the CEO of Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations in the world, and the CEO of Haji Company, Mayor, had arrived. Not to mention the other big shots that were scattered all over the place. Even the rest of the big shots were enough to crush Hu Batian with one hand. Hua Yun felt that what she had said and done to Qin Yiru and Ge Junjian was no different from a clown who had jumped ship. Thinking of this, Hua Yun's face turned even paler. Let's go. Yun Jian lowered her eyes and glared at Hu Batian. A hint of murderous intent appeared in the corner of her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. She raised her head and looked at Si. Then, she held his hand and quickly left the place. Apart from the group of big shots who had appeared earlier, the identities and statuses of the people who had appeared later were obviously much weaker. However, it caused a storm among Teacher Lu's group. Zhang Jifan, Su Zetian, Duan Lei, and even Han Biao, the former leader of the top gang in Jia province, who had surrendered to Yun Jian, were all there. This group of people was known to Teacher Lu and the others, but they had never been qualified to come into contact with them. Although they were not as powerful as the previous big shots, they were enough to frighten Teacher Lu and the others. In fact, Teacher Lu and the others did not know the identities of Snake, Lizard, Tiger, Leopard, and the others. Of course, Teacher Lu and the others did not dare to imagine their identities. After all, people like Zhang Jifan and Su Zetian were not people that Teacher Lu and the others were qualified to interact with. If Yun Jian did not act as an intermediary, Teacher Lu and the others would not have the qualifications to meet Snake, Lizard, and the others. They would never imagine the existence of this group of people. The process of the wedding was still according to the customs of the countryside. However, in terms of class, it was very different from the usual way of marriage in the countryside. This was because Qin Yiru and Ge Junjian were getting married in a hotel today. Hu Batian, Hu Chaochuan, and Hua Yun braced themselves and found a seat. They did not leave immediately. After all, if they did not finish their meal before leaving, Hu Batian would be too ashamed to stay in the underworld if word got out. Today's wedding ceremony was more like the Western process. When everything was over, it was almost 6:30 p.m. The people present were more or less done eating. This group of big shots had all come directly. They had not given Qin Yiru any money before this. Later on, with Snake, Lizard taking the lead, the group of big shots swarmed up and gave Qin Yiru money in front of Yun Jian and everyone present. Chapter 1086. This red packet was very thin, so thin that it was as if there was no money in it. Adults usually gave red packets to others, starting from 1 or 200 yuan. Some even gave thousands. Of course, it varied from person to person. Rich people gave more, while poor people gave dozens of yuan. Just now, in front of everyone, Snake. Lizard's group was being praised to the sky. Even Hu Batian, who was in the top 20 global multinational companies, was far from it. Everyone present was thinking about it. You're so rich, but the thickness of the red packet can't be seen? In other words, how much money could there be in this thin red packet that looked like it didn't contain any money? It couldn't be only 100 yuan, right? 100 yuan was considered quite a lot among the gifts that the commoners gave each other in 1999.
But Snake.
Lizard's group was different. They were international big shots. How awesome were they bragging one after another just now? Yang Xiaochun, who was sitting at the dining table not far away from the wedding ceremony, couldn't hold it in any longer. She had watched from beginning to end just now. She didn't dare to say a word when she saw Snake. Lizard's group of big shots being more powerful than the other. Yang Xiaochun didn't say anything, but it didn't mean that she wasn't envious or jealous. On the contrary, she was envious to death, but she knew that she couldn't get a word in at that time. But this time it was different. This big shot, who was so awesome when she appeared just now, actually gave a red packet that was so thin that the bottom couldn't be seen. How much money could there be in it? 100?
Puffed.
Ordinary people could afford a red packet of 100 yuan. This group of people, who were bragging so much just now, actually only gave a red packet of 100 yuan? Since they didn't have money, what were they bragging about just now? That was the thought of everyone who was watching the battle. But only Yang Xiaochun would stand up and point it out if she didn't like it. Your red packet is so thin. Is there money in it? Yang Xiaochun's words carried a strong taste of a village gossipy woman, and her words were quite unpleasant. Just as she finished speaking, Yang Xiaochun continued, "Weren't you all quite awesome just now? Why are you so stingy when it comes to giving red packets?" As soon as Yang Xiaochun finished speaking, the joyous atmosphere around them dropped a few degrees. Some people even pulled Yang Xiaochun's clothes to stop her from talking like that. But Yang Xiaochun ignored him. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She raised her eyebrows, but her eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Xiaochun, don't say that. This is just a small token of appreciation from the children. I'll be too embarrassed to accept it if it's too much." Qin Yu knew that the gift money was for good luck, so she took the red packet from Snake Lizard's hand and said, "If Snake Lizard gave her too much money, Qin Yu would be too embarrassed to accept it." Qin Yu accepted the red packet because Snake Lizard gave her a small amount of money. Then, the group of big shots gave Qin Yu red packets one after another. But the strange thing was that these red packets were so thin that he didn't know if there was any money inside. Qin Yu's words just now made Yang Xiaochun even angrier. She directly rushed up to Qin Yu and said, "Qin Yu, let us see the big red packets given by these big shots. We're all looking forward to it." Yang Xiaochun gritted her teeth and said, in fact, she was thinking in her heart, what kind of big shots are they? They can't even afford a small red packet. As she said that, Yang Xiaochun even reached out to snatch Qin Yu's red packet and opened it directly. "Hey!" Qin Yu didn't even have time to stop her. Yun Jian looked coldly at Yang Xiaochun and said to Qin Yu, "Mom, let her open it." Yang Xiaochun didn't care. She quickly opened Snake Lizard's red packet at the bottom. When she took out a black card. Yang Xiaochun was stunned. She didn't know what this black card that looked like a bank card was. Yun Jian's voice came from behind. "This is a black card. It's the highest black gold version of the Centurion Series charge card, launched by M Country's American Express in Y Country this year. The credit limit is about 2 to 10 million. Chapter 1087.
Snake.
Lizard's group came here today, so they naturally prepared the money. However, it was different from ordinary people's red packets, and then put a few hundred yuan in the red packet. When they made red packets, they usually put cards in them. Yang Xiaochun snatched the red packets from Qin Yu's hands and took out the black card from Snake Lizard's red packet at the bottom.
She was still somewhat at a loss.
First of all, Yang Xiaochun was just a rural woman, and her knowledge was not broad. Therefore, in her opinion, when people gave others money, there had never been a case where they directly put the bank card in it. After all, the bank card was generally controlled by the person themselves, and no one would give all of their control to others. Second, in 1999, the black card had just been introduced. Generally, the black card did not have a limit, and the black card that Snake Lizard gave Qin Yiru had a credit limit of $88 million. In other words, the black card system had just been introduced, and it was not surprising that a woman like Yang Xiaochun did not know what a black card was. After all, people who could have a black card did not apply for it themselves, but were invited by the bank. In today's world, there were very few people who could be invited to apply for a black card. Therefore, when Yun Jian explained about the black card in Yang Xiaochun's hand, not only was Yang Xiaochun dumbfounded, everyone else in the room was rooted to the spot as well. This card has 88 million yuan in it. Yang Xiaochun was the one who took the red packet just now, and now Yang Xiaochun was still holding the black card in her hand. She lowered her head and did not understand the black card, but the string of numbers that Yun Jian said shocked her. Yang Xiaochun's hand holding the black card could not stop shaking, but she held the card tightly for fear that she would accidentally drop it on the ground. If this card was destroyed in her hands, she would not be able to pay it back even if she worked like a cow or a horse for the rest of her life. $88 million converted to yuan, multiplied by 6, is not much, only about 50 million. Yun Jian lazily refuted Yang Xiaochun's words. Her casual words were in the ears of everyone present, but it was like a wave hitting a rock, and it was very shocking. Only about 50 million? What do you mean by only? That was half of 100 million. Everyone present was trembling with fear. 50 million. Among them, Yang Xiaochun's reaction was the most intense. She was so frightened that her hands went limp. Her hands were not clenched tightly, so the black card was accidentally dropped to the ground by her. Yun Jian could reach out and grab the card so that it wouldn't fall to the ground, but she didn't. Ce, who was standing next to her, sized her up nonchalantly. She didn't care about anything else. As for Snake Lizard, she looked at Yang Xiaochun as if she was looking at a lively clown. When Yang Xiaochun saw that she had thrown 50 million yuan to the ground, she was so scared that her legs went soft. She knelt on the ground and picked up the black card with trembling hands. She hurriedly handed it to Qin Yiru. I'm sorry. I'll return the card to you. Yang Xiaochun almost had a heart attack. As she spoke, her hands were like springs. There were a few times when she handed the card to Qin Yiru, but because her hands were trembling, she couldn't hold it firmly. Qin Yiru also took the card in shock. She didn't expect the card to have such a large amount of money. I'll return it to you. Yang Xiaochun realized that the red packets that Qin Yiru received from the big shots were still in her hands. She was about to return all the red packets to Qin Yiru. A pair of jade hands stopped Yang Xiaochun's actions. Chapter 1088. When Yun Jian said that, her voice was terrifyingly cold, and there was a frightening glint in her eyes that could strike fear into anyone. Yang Xiaochun's hands went limp. She almost spilled the red packets on the floor. However, Yang Xiaochun steadied herself in the end. I'll open them? Yang Xiaochun felt her hair stand on end from Yun Jian's words. Since you've taken them, you'll have to open them. Yun Jian sneered as she enticed Yang Xiaochun step by step. Yun Jian knew that if Qin Yiru were to open the red packet herself, and Qin Yiru knew how much money was in the card, her reaction would not be any less than Yang Xiaochun's. Therefore, Yun Jian might as well go all the way and let Yang Xiaochun help Qin Yiru open the red packet.
No.
This red packet belongs to Yiru. I'll open it. I can't accept this. Yang Xiaochun had been scared to death by the black card. She didn't dare to open the red envelope again. She didn't want to open a few more black cards. However, Yang Xiaochun did not know that the black cards were not owned by all the big shots present. In 1999, the black card system had just been introduced. Other than the top people who own the black card, even some of the international big shots were not qualified to own it. Of course, even if these international big shots were qualified to own the black card, they would not give it away like Snake Lizard had done. After all, the black card represented a noble status. Those who were qualified to own it would not give it away. It was akin to giving away one's noble status to someone else. No one present would do that. Of course, other than Snake Lizard.
To Snake
Lizard or the Kosha mercenaries, getting a black card was a piece of cake. However, this was not what attracted everyone's attention. Instead, it was Yang Xiaochun who said that she was too embarrassed to open Qin Yuru's red packet. If you're too embarrassed to open it, why did you open my mother's red packet just now? Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at Yang Xiaochun coldly. Only then did Yang Xiaochun realize that she had snatched Qin Yuru's red packet and opened it. She froze on the spot. Xiao Jian, it's fine. I'll do it myself. Qin Yuru spoke up when she saw that the situation was getting more tense. After saying that, she reached out and took the red packet from Yang Xiaochun's hand. Then, she asked Yang Xiaochun to quickly return to his seat. After all, it was a wedding. What they wanted was peace. Since Qin Yuru had spoken, Yun Jian didn't say anything. After Yang Xiaochun left the stage, Qin Yuru held the black card in her hand and tried to return it to Snake Lizard. This card is too expensive. Auntie can't afford it. The money in this card was enough to ensure that many people would not have to worry for the rest of their lives. Qin Yuru extended her hand to return the money to Snake Lizard. Auntie, this is a small token of my appreciation, Snake Lizard did not take it back, but said after a pause, Mom, this money is nothing to her. Just accept it. Yun Jian spoke up as well. Qin Yuru refused, of course. In the end, it was Gu Junjian who spoke up for Qin Yuru to accept it. Gu Junjian was already aware of Snake Lizard and the others' identities. He already knew that Yun Jian was the boss of Kosha mercenaries, so he understood that this amount of money was nothing to Snake Lizard and the others. Moreover, this was a token of his child's appreciation, so he let Qin Yuru accept it with peace of mind. After the wedding ceremony, the guests were almost done with their meals. However, the guests had yet to leave as the wedding was still in the middle of the gaming event. Yun Jian was called out by Lan Su halfway and stood at the back door of Tranquil Harmony Hotel. Chapter 1089. Looking at Yun Jian's questioning gaze, Lan Su was silent for a while before nodding. Yun Jian, I've been on Earth for so long. It's time to go back. Lan Su paused. Because the witch tribe of Yulong continent needs me. Because the witch tribe of Yulong continent needed her. It was such a simple reason. However, for thousands of years, Lan Su had taken on the mission of carrying the entire witch tribe with this reason alone. It was because the sorcerer god had left behind a sentence, I'll definitely return after 1,000 years. Now 1,000 years had passed. Lan Su had found the sorcerer god of her witch tribe. However, unfortunately, Yun Jian did not remember the past. She did not remember the past, and she had even forgotten the Yulong continent. However, Lan Su did not forget that she, Lan Su, was born in the witch tribe. Even if she died, she would die in the witch tribe. As for her sorcerer god, Lan Su really hoped that Yun Jian would return with her. The words that had been passed down since ancient times were not without basis. The sorcerer god lived, and the witch tribe would prosper. If the sorcerer god died, the witch tribe would perish. The sorcerer god's return could revive the witch tribe that had been silent for thousands of years. They could take back the throne that belonged to them as the #1 family in the Yulong continent. This was the source of motivation that Lan Su and all of the witch tribe's people looked forward to. However, Yun Jian was unwilling. Of course, this was the sorcerer god's own choice. Lan Su admitted that she really wanted Yun Jian to return to the Yulong continent with her. However, since Yun Jian was unwilling, she would not force her. So, will you come back? Yun Jian felt that someone was eavesdropping on her conversation with Lan Su. She raised her eyebrows and changed her question to Lan Su. Lan Su was silent for a while. Her tall figure looked very lonely. After a pause, Lan Su didn't answer Yun Jian's question. Instead, he asked Yun Jian, Sorcerer Goddess, are you really not going back? This time Lan Su didn't call her Yun Jian, nor was she joking. Her expression was very serious. Looking at Lan Su, Yun Jian nodded again. Okay. In the end, Yun Jian added, my family is here. And him. Lan Su seemed unwilling to give up. She parted her lips and smiled again. Then, what if the shaman tribe is about to die out? Are you still not going back? Yun Jian fell silent. In Yun Jian's subconscious mind, whether it was the Yulong continent or the sorcerer tribe, everything was foreign to her. That was why she wouldn't go there instead of going back. I understand. Lan Su revealed a bitter smile that was filled with too much bitterness. She fell silent for 2 seconds as well. I will bring the sandalwood box back to the Yulong continent. Lan Su's voice gradually became softer. She paused and lowered her head to look at the ground. Then, she suddenly raised her head to look at Yun Jian with an ethereal and lonely tone. I probably won't come back in the future. At the end of her sentence, her voice was so soft that only Lan Su could hear it. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a figure that had been enduring for a long time. It was rushing over here. What did you say? Damned woman. How dare you not come back? What did you say? I dare you to say it one more time. Just as Lan Su finished her last sentence and gently lowered her head to Yun Jian, a slender figure suddenly rushed out from the dark. There was a hint of dominance in this figure's vigor. The voice that came out of his mouth carried with it a hint of anger. Lan Su's eyelids twitched. She had just raised her eyes when she saw Yun Jian's innocent face, who looked like she was watching a show. When she turned her head again, she saw Adam's handsome face that looked like he was about to skin her alive. Chapter 1090. Yun Jian. Yun Jian, hurry up and save me. Has he gone mad? Lan Su was shocked by Adam's rage. She thought that Adam had gone mad and hurriedly asked Yun Jian for help. But when she turned around, she saw Yun Jian standing at the same spot and blinking innocently at her again. Then Yun Jian actually turned around and walked towards the back door of Clear Rhythm Hotel, returning to the wedding ceremony venue in a flash. When she was about to walk through the door, Yun Jian's back was facing her. She stretched out a slender jade hand under the nightlight and waved at Lan Su with her back facing her. Yun Jian's action had the feeling of telling Lan Su to take care of herself. Lan Su couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Then, she was dragged to a corner by Adam. Lan Su didn't see that when Yun Jian walked into Clear Rhythm Hotel, she even symbolically curved her red lips. Ever since Adam was injured and Lan Su took care of him, Yun Jian could tell that this guy was interested in Lan Su. Actually, Adam's injury had healed long ago. That little injury on his leg back then, could it really make Adam one of the 4 leaders of an Hun group injured for so long? What a joke. It was just that Adam had always pretended that his injury was serious and needed someone to support him to walk. This was something that everyone had noticed. Only a silly child like Lan Su didn't know. She really thought that Adam had just recovered recently and had always felt guilty that Adam was seriously injured because of her. Just as Yun Jian stepped into Tranquil Rhythm Hotel, she was greeted by 2 tall silhouettes. Emo-sun was frowning as he walked towards Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and paused before asking, "Young mistress, did you see Adam just now?" Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She didn't blush at all when she lied. "No, you're looking for him? How can there be anything? Haha. Emo-sun is just a little worried about that brat Adam. To be honest, that brat Adam has never let us be at ease." Holding a glass of wine, Shuang bumped into Emo-sun with a smile. After that, he put his arm around Emo-sun's shoulder. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Just as she was about to say something, a familiar and pleasant male voice came from behind her. "Are you too bored out of your minds? You're not going to help, huh?" Si's magnetic and pleasant male voice came from behind her. When she came back to her senses, Yun Jian felt that she had been pulled into a broad body with a familiar warmth. Ce bluntly said to Emo's son and Shuang. Now that the wedding ceremony was over, all the big shots were planning to leave by car. Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's fellow villagers were also planning to leave with wedding candies. There were still some things that needed to be cleaned up, so Ce asked Emo's son and Shuang to help. After listening to Ce's words, Emo's son and Shuang left in a flash. Ce hugged Yunjian from behind and rested his chin on her shoulder. What naughty things did you do this time? Ce's sword-like eyebrows flashed. He smiled and said, matchmaking. Yunjian only smiled slightly. Then, she nimbly broke free from Ce's embrace and took 2 steps forward. Ce raised his handsome eyebrows and followed her. On the other side, Lan Su was dragged by Adam to a dark corner. Are you crazy? Lan Su was mercilessly thrown to the corner by Adam. She was hit hard by the wall and shouted at Adam when she came back to her senses. Yes, I am crazy. Adam pressed Lan Su against the wall in a rather violent manner. He reached out his right hand and punched the wall. The mud wall was smashed into powder by Adam's punch. Tell me, why are you leaving? Adam's eyes were red. Lan Su was silent for 2 seconds. She didn't dare to look directly into Adam's eyes. After a pause, she looked directly at Adam. What does it have to do with you whether I leave or not? Chapter 1091. Adam felt like he was crazy. He must be crazy right now. When he heard that this damn woman was leaving, Adam felt like his whole world was about to collapse. This kind of feeling was really like one of the things that one loved was about to leave one's side. More importantly, what did this damn woman say? She probably won't come back? Won't come back?
Dream on.
She wanted to leave? She didn't even ask for his permission. Adam bit Lan Su's lips hard. Lan Su's height was very tall, but in front of Adam, she still appeared very small. Moreover, Adam bent down and kissed her directly. Lan Su didn't even have time to react. By the time Lan Su reacted, Adam was already holding her head and fiercely biting her lips. The 4 leaders of the Enrich organization were all virgins. Don't laugh when you see this. Because not only were they virgins, they still had their first kiss. Probably influenced by Ce's hatred of women, the 4 leaders of the Enrich organization didn't have a single woman by their side. Even when Shuang represented the kosher mercenaries to meet other organizations in places like nightclubs, Shuang always kept a distance from women. Therefore, when Adam bit Lan Su's lips, it was extremely awkward. This kiss was like biting each other. When Lan Su was kissed hard by Adam, she almost pushed Adam away at the same time. However, she couldn't push him away no matter how hard she tried. Therefore, she bared her teeth and bit Adam's lips hard, trying to push him away. Tears welled up in her eyes. Whether it was in Yulong mainland or on Earth, Lan Su had always maintained her cold and aloof image. Lan Su didn't purposely maintain this image. It was just her nature. The witches had their own rules. Witches weren't allowed to have too much contact with men. Therefore, Lan Su always kept a distance of a few meters from men. When Adam was injured, it was all her fault. Therefore, Lan Su had planned to support Adam the entire time. This was already the limit. As for today's kiss, it was already against the rules of the witches. As a woman of the witch tribe, she was not allowed to have any symbolic contact with men other than her husband. He couldn't even hold her hand. Adam's kiss scared Lan Su to death. Lan Su did not dare to use the techniques of the Yulong continent on Earth, so she was naturally no match for Adam. The last time he used Yulong land's technique, Lan Su had been unable to make any progress in his cultivation for 100 years. If there was another 100 years, it would be even harder for her to accept than killing Lan Su. Only when one's life was in danger could they use Yulong land's moves. Otherwise, on Earth, Lan Su would never do it even if he had to die. Adam kissed Lan Su for 10 minutes. Lan Su also used her pair of weak and frail hands to slap Adam for a full 10 minutes. She even bit him with all her might. By the time he let go, Adam's lips were already stained with Lan Su's blood. After Adam let go of Lan Su, He saw that her cheeks were full of tears. The witches had their own rules. Lan Su had always abided by them. But today, damned woman, how dare you cry in front of me? Adam saw Lan Su's red eyes and became even angrier. The witches have their own rules. Witches are not allowed to have any physical contact with men. Otherwise, there are only two choices. Lan Su didn't look at Adam and didn't say anything else. Chapter 1092. Lan Su had just turned around when she was pulled back by Adam. You still want to leave? Adam's voice was low and deep. There was a hint of, if you dare to leave, I'll teach you a lesson in his domineering tone. Lan Su's hand was once again grabbed by Adam. She was a bit scared of the current Adam, but she still nodded coldly and arrogantly. Yes. What if I want you to stay for me? Adam's eyes were bloodshot. One of his fists was tightly clenched. He looked at Lan Su's frail body with her back facing him and asked fiercely. I'm sorry, Lan Su lowered her head. She had no choice but to leave. She existed because she was the sorcerer god's guardian. She was the sorcerer god's guardian, and also the sorcerer tribe's guardian. The sorcerer god could choose not to return, but she had to leave. Apologize? Adam suddenly grabbed Lan Su's hand and laughed with bloodshot eyes. Can't have any physical contact with men? To hell with the tribe's rules. I'm going to *CK you today. Adam suddenly grabbed Lan Su's hand. His grip on Lan Su was shockingly strong. At the same time, he grabbed Lan Su tightly and walked straight to the luxurious suite he had been staying in for the past few days at Clear Rhythm Hotel. Adam did not stay at Dong Ruan's house for the past few days mainly because there was no one at Dong Ruan's house. Everyone from Dong Ruan's family had gathered at Zhang Meihua's house in Xinjiang town. Adam was fortunate enough to have moved out. He chose to stay at Clear Rhythm Hotel, where the wedding banquet was held. Lan Su's face turned pale when she heard Adam's last sentence. Are you crazy? If a woman from the sorcerer tribe has any relationship with a man, I can only kill you. Lan Su's face instantly turned pale. She did not even know why Adam would say something like that to her and do something so outrageous. There's a second choice, isn't there? Adam dragged Lan Su to the entrance of the hotel suite. He swiped the access card and dragged Lan Su inside. There was indeed a second option. If a woman from the sorcerer tribe had sex with a man before marriage, the man would either have to marry her, kill the man, or die. There was no other choice. What are you doing? Don't mess around. I'm going back to the Yulong continent now. I'll never come back for the rest of my life if you treat me like this. Lan Su shouted desperately. She was afraid of the present Adam. Adam was originally a little rational, but when he heard Lan Su repeatedly mention that she would never return after returning to the Yulong mainland, he became even more furious. He grabbed Lan Su and dragged her into his suite. I don't believe you. I'll *CK you today. Whenever Adam thought of Lan Su leaving and never coming back, he couldn't control himself. After dragging Lan Su into his suite, he closed the door behind him. Then, he dragged Lan Su to the edge of the bed and threw Lan Su onto the bed. Lan Su was scared out of her wits. She was just about to stand up when Adam roughly threw her back onto the bed. Adam, what are you doing? Are you crazy? After a few rounds, Lan Su's hands were pinned onto the bed by Adam. She was wearing a floral skirt that reached her knees today. Now that her thighs were separated by Adam, she was so scared that she screamed immediately. Without the Yulong continent's techniques, she had no way of fighting back. Chapter 1093. Adam's rough voice rang out. Whenever he thought of Lan Su leaving and never coming back, he couldn't help but tremble. He had never lost control like this in his entire life. Everyone in the Enhan organization knew that Adam had a bad temper. Among the 4 leaders of the Enhan organization, Adam had the worst temper while Mo Sun had the calmest temper. Lin Wei and Shuang happened to have both. Adam was also the one who liked to joke around. Lan Su had supported Adam for so long because of his injury, but this was the first time she saw Adam so angry. She was scared silly. You can't do this. You need to calm down. Calm down. Lan Su stretched out her hands to stop Adam from tearing her clothes apart. She tried her best to close her slender legs. But at this moment, Adam didn't listen at all. He had already completely lost control. Calm down? I'm very calm now. As Adam spoke, he rudely tore apart Lan Su's thin floral dress. At the same time, he used his leg to stop Lan Su's legs from closing. At this moment, Lan Su was only wearing a bra and panties. Her perfect body didn't have a single bit of fat on it. Her well-proportioned and tender baby-like skin appeared in front of Adam. When Adam saw this scene, he almost went crazy. At this moment, even if the Heavenly King came, he would still do her. Her two shameful places were torn off. Her hands were raised high, and her thighs were completely pushed apart. When she felt Adam's naked body pressing down on her, Lan Su gave up struggling. What happened in the hotel suite didn't affect the few people who were still cleaning up the mess of the wedding ceremony. Other than Adam, the 4 leaders of the Enrich organization were helping to clean up the mess of the wedding ceremony. Where do you think Adam went? Why hasn't he come back to help after so long? Shuang fiddled with the things in his hands lazily as he spoke. He went to mess with people again. That's his only hobby. Even Lin Wei, who didn't like to talk, spoke up. Lin Wei was the oldest among the 4 leaders of the Enrich organization. At the same time, he was also the most mature when it came to handling matters. Among the 3 of them, only Immerse did not say a word. Immerse had a bad premonition, but he couldn't tell what it was. The wedding was completely over, but the mess in the bridal chamber had yet to begin. All the international bigwigs took their leave one after another. Even Siren said goodbye to Yunjian and returned to Country M. Most of Xinjiang town's neighbors who had come to attend the wedding had left. The disturbance at the bridal chamber at night was just a prank between a group of close friends and relatives. Most of the people had already left. The helpers were still busy. There were many things that needed to be moved back from the wedding ceremony. Yunjian was the only one there, sitting on a bench with her arms crossed leisurely. Ce had already been dragged away by Yun-yi to help. Ce dared not slack off when his future daughter-in-law's brother asked for his help. As a result, the leader of the Enrich organization, the young master of the strongest armaments family in the Cold Pavilion, was now reduced to being ordered around to do work for others. But the most bizarre thing was that he was willing to help. Since Ce was called to help, Yunjian sat alone on the bench. Qingyu had also been asked to help by her brother. Yunjian sat on the stool with one arm leaning against the dining table, while her other hand lifted her phone gently to glance at the time on it. It had been less than half an hour since the guests left. Sister Jian. Just as she saw that the time on her phone was 7 o'clock, 2 silhouettes appeared in front of Yunjian. It was not hard to tell that they were snake, lizard, and tiger. Leopard. Let's go. Yunjian turned off her phone, a faint murderous glint flashing across her eyes. Chapter 1094. Wanjiang Expressway Intersection. Hu Batian had already parted ways with Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun and was heading to the nearest airport. To get to the nearest airport, one had to pass through Wanjiang Expressway. There was a long stretch of desolate land from the downtown area to Wanjiang Expressway. In other words, there was a long stretch of road from the downtown area to Wanjiang Expressway. There were only occasional cars passing by. At this moment, Hu Batian was heading to the nearest airport to take a flight back to Country M. Hu Chaochuan and Hua Yun were not on the same route as Hu Batian. Hu Batian came to Country Z today purely because he was entrusted by his nephew, Hu Chaochuan. He hoped that he could come to Country Z to support Hu Chaochuan. However, Hu Batian did not expect that not only did he not find his place today, he was even slapped in the face by Yunjian. Thinking of this, Hu Batian was so angry that his mind was in a mess. Suddenly, Hu Batian's eyelids twitched.
He had a bad feeling.
Sir, please drive faster. Hu Batian stuck his head out and said to the taxi driver.
Aye.
The taxi driver responded. At this moment, they had already reached the darkest and most uninhabited place. Hu Batian's eyelids twitched again. In the next second, He saw the driver's lips curl into a smile through the mirror beside the driver. This strange smile made Hubation's heart skip a beat. In the next breath, he felt that the driver had turned the steering wheel and rushed straight to a small path that no one could pass through. Before Hubation could react, the driver had already slammed on the brakes and stopped in the middle of the field. At this moment, 3 figures walked out from the dark. One of them was a slender, skinny girl. Behind the girl was a man and a woman. The girl waved her hand lightly. The burly man, who was at least 2 meters tall, walked forward to open the door and dragged Hubation out of the car. At this moment, in a high-class suite in Qingyun Hotel, the room was a mess. The floor and the bedside were filled with men and women's clothes. On the soft bed, Lan Su clutched the bedsheets tightly. She stared blankly at the ceiling. Adam grabbed his short black hair and sat on the edge of the bed. Half of the bedsheet was lifted up. Under the bedding, there was a red bloodstain that symbolized the purity of a young girl. Adam stepped on the bed with 1 foot. He was feeling very restless right now. He reached out his hand to rub his short hair fiercely. He turned his head to look at Lan Su rather impatiently. He saw Lan Su gather the bedding and turn his head to the other side. Adam waited for a long time, but didn't hear a single word from Lan Su. His mood became even more restless. He immediately turned his head to look at Lan Su. His tone was still as rude as ever. "Hey, woman," he shouted, but Lan Su ignored him. The wizard race had their own rules. Lan Su had a chastity sand on her since she was young, which was different from the people living on Earth in the modern era. This chastity sand symbolized a woman's purity. She thought that there was nothing more despairing than not being able to find the sorcerer god. But now, since Adam had done such a thing to her, the chastity sand on her wrist had naturally disappeared. Lan Su couldn't describe how she felt. But the strange thing was, after Adam did such a terrible thing to her, she wasn't angry at all. She didn't even have the thought of killing him. But if the wizard race knew that she had sex with a man... Chapter 1095. Adam felt Lan Su's deep resistance, and his stubborn temper flared up again. Just as he was about to push Lan Su down again, he met Lan Su's teary eyes. Adam was stunned. "Fuck, where did I hurt you?" Adam hurriedly got up from Lan Su, and then sat to the side. He looked back and forth a few times, but didn't find any wounds on Lan Su's body. His worried look for Lan Su was 10,000 times more exaggerated than when he was heavily injured. Lan Su glanced at Adam, and then turned around to ignore Adam. Seeing this, Adam fiercely slapped his head. He looked at Lan Su, and the words of apology that were on the tip of his tongue couldn't come out. After waiting for a long time, Lan Su finally spoke. "Why did you do this to me? You like this? How do you want me to live in the future?" Adam scratched his head and remained silent for a long while. In the end, he muttered a muffled sentence. "I was impulsive." He, Adam, had never lost control like this before. Damn it. Just as Adam said this, he saw Lan Su, who was lying down with her back to him, slowly reach out her right wrist that should have been marked with the chastity mark. "If my clansmen knew about this, they would kill you." Lan Su closed her eyes, and her beautiful eyes flickered up and down.
"Kill me?"
Adam raised his eyebrows and asked. Lan Su nodded her head with her back to Adam and said, "So let's treat today's matter as if it never happened. Forget about today's matter. I won't marry anyone in this life anyways." Lan Su's soft moans entered Adam's ears, and he immediately remembered how alluring Lan Su's sweet moans were during the intense moments just now. Adam resisted the urge to push Lan Su down again, and reached out his hand to grab Lan Su, forcing Lan Su to look into his eyes. Then Adam resisted the rough words that came out of his mouth. He looked Lan Su in his eyes, and added a hint of sweetness in his domineering tone. "Damn woman, you're already like this with me, and you want me to forget today's matter? Not a chance. Let me tell you, I, your father, will definitely marry you." Adam held Lan Su's face and said these words in a flustered and exasperated manner. Lan Su originally thought that Adam was only interested in her, so she didn't think about whether Adam would take responsibility for her or not. But when she heard Adam's words, Lan Su stared blankly. Then she saw Adam once again pouncing on her and planted a red strawberry berry mark to her to the point. Lan Su's up to the point. To marry me, your father, your father to marry you. So you're not to leave. Do you hear me? Although these words were domineering and didn't allow her to refute, Lan Su's heart unconsciously warmed. She actually couldn't help but reach out her hand to respond to Adam, a moment of lingering. At the same time, on a small field road that was quite a distance away from the Wanjiang Expressway. Tiger. Leopard dragged Hu Batian out of the taxi driver's car. Yun Jian looked at Hu Batian with her arms crossed and her eyebrows slightly raised. It's you. What do you want to do? Hu Batian quickly recognized the three people standing in front of him. Weren't they Yun Jian, Snake, Lizard, and Tiger? Leopard? He was so scared that his face turned pale.
Snake.
Lizard and Tiger. Leopard were the two elders of the Kosha mercenaries. Their status was second only to the Kosha mercenaries' boss. Yun Jian lightly snorted. She crossed her arms and looked at Hu Batian. After a while, she faintly said to Hu Batian, I don't want to do anything. I just want to settle a score with you.
What?
What? Hu Batian's collar was grabbed by the tall and sturdy Tiger, Leopard, and he trembled with fear as he asked, Do you still remember not long ago when you joined forces with the military organization to plot against my Kosha mercenaries? Yun Jian casually said, and her smile was eerie and terrifying. Chapter 1096. Listening to Yun Jian calling herself Kosha mercenaries, Hu Batian's legs turned to jelly from the shock. When Snake, Lizard, Tiger, Leopard, Diani, Gui Yen, and Gui Lian, all the famous figures of Kosha mercenaries, addressed Yun Jian as Sister Jian during the wedding ceremony, Hu Batian had already been suspicious. In spite of it, he had always thought that Yun Jian was so young. How could she be the one from the Kosha mercenaries? Hence, he did not have any doubts. It was only when Yun Jian said what she said just now that Hu Batian snapped back to reality. She had actually referred to herself as Gu Sha mercenaries and had pointed out her recent actions so accurately. Hu Batian felt like he was struck by lightning. He slumped to the floor, but Tiger, Leopard held him back from sitting completely. He then looked at Yun Jian with a shaky gaze and uttered what he said just now. Yun Jian did not admit to Hu Batian's words directly. She merely smiled faintly before her smile faded. The girl's slender figure stood in front of Hu Batian. If he had not heard what Yun Jian said just now or seen what Yun Jian did now, Hu Batian would probably have thought that she was an innocent and harmless girl. Yun Jian ignored Hu Batian, raising a brow with a smile. She kept quiet for a while before she spoke. I wasn't looking for you, but you came to me yourself. Hu Batian, what do you think are your chances of leaving this place alive today? As Yun Jian smirked, a butterfly knife was already hooked in her hand. It spun nimbly and swiftly between her fingers. Seeing Yun Jian's action and hearing her words, Hu Batian could not help gulping. What do you want? Hu Batian asked in a trembling voice. Hu Batian paused. He was afraid that Yun Jian would really kill him, so he continued, I can give you anything, as long as you don't kill me. After hearing Yun Jian's name, they started to beg for mercy before they even started to attack. Yun Jian just smiled coldly. After you die, your things will naturally belong to me. Yun Jian crossed her arms. She did not look directly at Hu Batian. Instead, she looked into the distance. Now, I only want to know your relationship with the former Inferno Ring. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows and said. Upon hearing that Yun Jian knew that he was related to the destroyed Inferno Ring, Hu Batian's heart trembled violently. He averted his eyes as if he was dodging something, and his cunning eyes shifted slightly.
What are you talking about?
I've only worked with the mercenaries once. I don't know about the former Inferno Ring you're talking about. Hu Batian refused to admit it. Considering his own safety, Hu Batian added, But it's fine if you want to know. I'll only tell you. Tell the others to leave. As soon as Hu Batian finished speaking, Yun Jian agreed. Okay. As soon as Yun Jian agreed, snake, lizard, tiger, leopard, and the driver walked away. Hu Batian then put his hands behind his back and said, "Since you know that I'm related to the former Inferno Ring, I don't mind telling you. The mysterious person who controlled the former Inferno Ring and tried to destroy the Kosha mercenaries came from the Yulong mainland." As soon as Hu Batian finished speaking, he saw that Yun Jian was listening intently, so he suddenly withdrew his hands from behind his back. With this retraction, 2 sharp blades appeared in his hands. Chapter 1097. Just as Hu Batian was about to stab his saber at Yun Jian, a butterfly knife that was several times faster than him followed the trajectory of the wind and struck his heart. 2 seconds before Hu Batian was about to stab Yun Jian with both sabers, the butterfly knife in her hand was 2 seconds faster than Hu Batian as it plunged into his chest. Hu Batian's eyes widened at the speed of Yun Jian's hand as he glared at the girl who was grinning like the Grim Reaper in the dark. All of a sudden, he felt his chest tighten, and he could feel the butterfly knife stabbing into his beating heart. Hu Batian felt himself leaning backward as he looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, as if he had suddenly understood something. "Why? No wonder. Why did I die in your hands when I made the first move? So you're really slaying God. No wonder you could really kill me." Before Hu Batian could even finish his sentence, his body had already tilted backwards in an arc. Finally, a second before his consciousness faded completely, Hu Batian heard the last thing he heard in his life as a human. "Because I'm slaying God. Because she's slaying God, so you have to die." Right after Yun Jian spoke, Hu Batian closed his eyes forever.
Sister Jian.
Snake, lizard, tiger, leopard, and the driver called out in unison when they came back to look at Yun Jian. The driver was none other than Raccoon, who was skilled in disguise. After Raccoon put on makeup for Qin Yiru and Gejun Jian, he killed Hu Batian's driver and disguised himself as a man before taking Hu Batian to the highway. That was how the flawless plan came to be. Amen. Yun Jian looked at the trio and nodded softly before adding, "Take care of the body." Today's trip wasn't in vain. Today's trip was indeed not in vain, because she found out one thing. Hu Batian had told her a secret before he died. The mysterious person who controlled the former Inferno Ring was from the Yulong continent. Although Hu Batian eventually planned to use this secret to try to kill her, Yun Jian was able to recognize it. The mysterious person who controlled the former Inferno Ring was indeed from the Yulong continent. Now that he knew about this matter, it wasn't hard to let it go. In his previous life, the kidnapping of his younger brother and his subsequent murder were all controlled by the Inferno Ring. The Inferno Ring had already been destroyed by Yun Jian and Si. Later, he found out that there was someone else controlling the Inferno Ring. Later, a series of things happened to Yun Jian, including various assassination attempts. It could be deduced that all of this had something to do with that mysterious man. Ever since Yun Jian was assassinated, Yun Jian and Si had never given up on investigating this matter. Especially Si. Everything Yun Jian knew today was told to her by Si. Today, she finally knew that the mysterious man was from the Yulong continent. By the time Yun Jian returned to Clear Rhythm Hotel, it was already 7:30 p.m. Most of the things here were already packed, and Qin Yiru had already been sent back to Go Yunjian's house. Many of Go Yunjian's comrades had also gone to Go Yunjian's house noisily. They rolled up their sleeves and said that they were going to wreak havoc in the new house. Yun Jian had just gotten out of the car when she saw Si walking towards her. "Where did you go?" Si walked over and grabbed her little hand, asking softly. "To kill someone." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She said it so softly that only the two of them could hear it. Chapter 1098. Just as Yun Jian gently leaned into Si's embrace and felt his warm embrace, a voice came from the side. "Young master, Adam is missing." Hearing this voice and feeling the girl leave his embrace in the next second, Si furrowed his brows in displeasure. Yun Jian quickly extricated herself from Si's embrace. She looked at Imo-san, who was looking at CE with a rather worried gaze and raised her eyebrows. Before CE could reply to Emo-san, Emo-san turned his gaze towards Yunjian. "Young madam, have you seen Adam?" Yunjian's eyes sharpened. She wiped her red lips and said, "I have."
Where?
Emo-san asked anxiously. "The hotel's back door." He pulled Lan Su and left. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Hearing this, Emo-san's nervous emotions slowly relaxed a little. "Thank you, young madam. I'll go take a look." Emo-san finished speaking and turned to leave. "Let's go take a look too." Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Just a moment ago, she suddenly made a decision, so she decided to go look for Lan Su now. As she spoke, she pulled CE and walked in that direction. The girl's fragrance assailed his nostrils. CE was unconsciously pulled along by Yunjian. Two living people had disappeared here, just like that. Yunjian couldn't just aimlessly continue searching. Thus, she suggested going to the surveillance room of Clear Rhythm Hotel to look for them. After looking through the surveillance, she found Adam and Lan Su's figures. It wasn't strange for a 4-star hotel like Clear Rhythm Hotel to have surveillance. Through the surveillance, everyone present saw the scene of Adam forcefully dragging Lan Su into the hotel's large suite. As for the scene of Adam forcefully kissing Lan Su, because it wasn't near the hotel's surveillance didn't record it. "Damn, good brat. Adam, this fellow is too ferocious. Don't you have any sense of pity for the fairer sex?" Shuang laughed when he saw the surveillance video. His smile was handsome. If it wasn't for the long scar on his neck, Shuang would definitely be the most handsome of the 4 leaders of Enhan. Beside him, Lin Wei saw the surveillance camera, but he didn't seem to be moved at all. Emo-san didn't say anything, but his face clearly darkened. Just as he walked to the door of the big suite, Emo-san quickly unlocked the door. CE, Lin Wei, and Shuang stood at the door and didn't enter. Yunjian, however, followed him in. As soon as the door opened, the smell of sex assaulted his nose. Yunjian raised her eyebrows. "Damn, Adam, this brat is really amazing." Shuang stood at the door and saw the messy clothes on the floor. He couldn't help but ridicule again. At this time, Emo-san had already walked in with a sullen face. Lan Su and Adam were shocked when they saw Emo's senator, of course. Although Lan Su and Adam were naked, their bodies were covered with a thick blanket. When Emo-san saw the scene, his eyelids only twitched. Then he shouted at Adam, "Adam, put on your clothes and get out here." With that, Emo-san turned and left. This was the first time in his life that Emo-san was so angry. When Emo-san just came in, Lan Su buried her head under the blanket. They all knew. She was too ashamed to face them. Yunjian smiled. She stood at a distance and looked at Lan Su and Adam, who were huddled together under the blanket. She looked straight at the bulging Lan Su under the blanket and said, "Don't go back to Yulong mainland first. I'll go back with you during the summer break." With that, she turned and left the room, leaving some space for Lan Su and Adam. As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, Lan Su popped her head out of the blanket in surprise and joy. Yunjian, really? Chapter 1099. Damn it, woman. Can't you open your eyes for me? You're not even wearing any F***king clothes. Adam didn't say the last sentence. He reached his hand into his hair impatiently. He was very impatient, but he suppressed his violent temper and growled at Lan Su. Lan Su was really too excited just now. Yunjian actually agreed to return to Yulong mainland. So Lan Su was really too excited. Sorry, I was too excited. Lan Su wasn't even listening to what Adam was saying to her right now. She was so excited that her entire body was trembling. She was so excited that she couldn't control herself. So she opened her mouth and replied to Adam carelessly. Adam was just yelled at by Emo-san, and he was in a mess right now. In the end, when he heard Lan Su's extremely perfunctory words, the corners of his mouth immediately twitched. Lan Su was excited. She had just slid her pure white jade feet to the ground and was about to pick up the embarrassing inner and outer clothes that were thrown messily on the ground. Her legs suddenly went soft, and a certain part of her body hurt. Her entire body almost went limp and fell to the ground. Adam caught her hand in time and flipped her entire body back onto the bed. Adam's figure flashed, and he propped himself up on Lan Su's upper body without an inch of clothing. He looked sharply at her naked body under the bedding.
Ah.
You don't look. Lan Su was shocked. She hurriedly reached out her hand to cover her chest, covering a certain part. What are you covering up for? Not only have I seen it, I've also touched it all over. Adam curled his lips wickedly and said these shameful words very seriously. You. Lan Su's face instantly flushed red. Her rosy cheeks were pink and tender. When Adam saw this scene, he almost couldn't help but do Lan Su again. But considering that Yun Jian and the others had already walked out of the door and were walking towards the living room on the first floor, Adam still turned over and stood up. After Yun Jian and Mo's son came out of the big suite, they followed the others to the living room on the first floor of the hotel. He left all the space for the two people in the room. Mo Sen's face was terrifyingly dark. Even Shui Ying and Lin Wei, two people who didn't understand romance, could feel that the atmosphere was not right. What's the matter, Mo Sen? Don't tell me you're jealous of that brat Adam? Shui Ying laughed as he walked in front of Mo Sen and lightly placed his hand on Mo Sen's shoulder. However, Mo Sen slapped his hand away. Hey, what's wrong? Shui Ying couldn't understand. He laughed and said, Hey, what's wrong? On the other side, Yun Jian was sitting on a leather sofa in the lounge of the large living room on the first floor. Ce was standing beside Yun Jian. After waiting for a while, they finally saw two people walking down the stairs. Adam, who was dressed in formal attire, walked at the very front, followed by a somewhat embarrassed Lan Su. Seeing Lan Su walking so slowly, Adam turned around and grabbed Lan Su's hand and walked over. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She and Ce didn't open their mouths. In terms of emotions, Ce was free to raise Adam and the other three. When Adam pulled Lan Su and walked over, Mo Sen's eyes flashed. The few people present clearly saw Mo Sen's eyes darken. He directly walked over and rushed in front of Adam. Raising his hand, Mo's son ferociously punched Adam's chest. Adam was struggling. His whole body tilted backward and fell. Adam took a few steps back before stopping. Mo's son, are you crazy? After stopping, Adam covered his chest and looked at Mo's son in shock. He didn't think that Mo's son would actually beat him like this. Just as he stopped, he saw Mo's son standing in front of Lan Su. Chapter 1100. Lan Su is frightened by Mo Sen's action just now. She saw Mo's son beat up Adam and stood in front of her. She couldn't help but widen her eyes and stare blankly. Actually, it didn't matter to her whether she was responsible or not, because she still had more important things to do. Lan Su was just about to rush to Yun Jian when she suddenly saw that Mo Sen didn't answer him. He thought that Lan Su was wronged. Mo Sen quickly walked over and grabbed Adam's collar and pulled him in front of Lan Su. Adam, apologize. Mo Sen bellowed at Adam. Adam touched the bridge of his nose. He cursed in his heart for a while. Didn't he say that he wanted to marry Lan Su as his wife? Why did Mo Sen still think that he was just playing around with Lan Su? Seeing that Adam didn't speak, Mo Sen clenched his fist and hit Adam again. Before he even touched Adam's clothes, Lan Su's words came over. Don't hit. Today's matter was voluntary. Lan Su went against her conscience and said such a sentence. When Adam was beaten by Mo's son, he obviously didn't fight back. She was really afraid that Mo's son beat Adam too hard and something happened to Adam. If something happened to Adam, what should she do? Lan Su frowned.
She suddenly thought of this.
Just when she thought of this, Lan Su immediately loosened her brows. Pay. She still hadn't said that she would agree to be with Adam. Mo Sen's fist rushed to Adam's cool face. He was just about to hit it. Hearing Lan Su's words, he stopped. Adam, don't forget what Mom and Dad said to us before they passed away. In this life, you can only be loyal to one woman. Once you've decided on a person, you have to protect her with your life. Mo's son clenched his fist and placed it in front of Adam's head. In the end, he didn't hit Adam, but said such words. With that, he turned around and left the place. He quickly walked out of the door of Clear Rhythm Hotel. After Mo's son left, Adam stood in the same place. He was also silent. Yunjian sat not far away and watched. When she heard Mo's son's words, she was surprised and stunned. What's this? What's the situation? Looking at the scene in front of him, Shuaing was stunned. Then he very cleverly turned his head to look at Lin Wei. Lin Wei's age was the oldest among the 4 leaders of Enhan's group. Of course, even the oldest, he was absolutely not over 30. Actually, Lin Wei was not much older than Shuaing and the other 2. He was at most 2 or 3 years older, but the aura he displayed was quite mature. Among the 4 leaders of Enhan group, Lin Wei was the first to follow Si. And Adam. Last was Shuaing. Therefore, Shuaing didn't know much about Mo's son and Adam's background. Just as Shuaing turned his head to ask Lin Wei, before Lin Wei could reply, Adam took the initiative and said in a muffled voice, "He's my biological brother." So Mo's son was usually very strict with Adam and especially meddled in Adam's affairs. Ce and Lin Wei obviously knew about this. Both of them didn't move an inch. Shuaing was dumbfounded. Yunjian also stood up with furrowed eyebrows. Lan Su on the other side was also very surprised. Mo's son was actually Adam's brother? But why did Mo's son and Adam never address each other as brothers in front of others? Just as the few people present were thinking of this, Adam reached out and grabbed Lan Su, walking towards the door. Shuaing and Lin Wei saw this, and because they were worried about Mo's son, they also followed out. So only Yunjian and Ce were left in the hall. Yunjian frowned slightly and looked at Ce. But after 2 seconds of silence, she didn't say anything. Chapter 1101. As Ce's handsome face came closer and closer to hers, Yunjian subconsciously nodded. To be honest, Yunjian had never imagined that Mo's son and Adam were biological brothers. Mo's son and Adam didn't look alike, but if she thought about it carefully now that she knew the truth, even if Mo's son and Adam didn't look alike at first glance, each of them had their own handsome features. But there were still some details that made them look alike. Now that she heard Ce's words that sounded like a seduction, Yunjian nodded subconsciously. Yunjian nodded. Her tender cheeks looked very delicious. Ce couldn't help but swallow. His handsome face was already close to Yunjian's cheek. His handsome lips were just a centimeter away from her right cheek. "Give me a kiss and I'll tell you." Ce looked at Yunjian's red lips that were moving up and down. His throat went dry, and he took advantage of the situation to say these shameless words. As soon as Ce finished speaking, Yunjian's face turned red. But her facial expression didn't change, as usual. After hearing Ce's embarrassing words, Yunjian's expression changed slightly. Then she reached out and pushed Ce's firm chest. "Mama's already gone back to Uncle Ji's house. Let's hurry over too," Yunjian said as she tried to push Ce away and stand up. Before she could stand up, Ce grabbed her slender waist and leaned his handsome face closer to hers. Almost at the same time, Ce moved closer to Yunjian's red lips and quickly stole a kiss. Then he quickly let go of her. Yunjian's cheeks flushed in no time. Let's go home." Ce reached out and grabbed Yunjian's lily-white hand. Before Yunjian could say anything, he pulled her towards the hotel's main entrance. Yunjian didn't see that when Ce pulled her soft and smooth hand towards the entrance of Clear Rhythm Hotel, his lips curved up slightly. His handsome lips brushed up and down, as if he was licking the taste of her lips that had just touched the surface of the water. 8:30 p.m. Usually at this time, Qin Yuru would be sleeping with Xiao Yunju and the other 2. But today was not normal. Today was Qin Yuru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. In Gu Yunjian's villa, Qin Yuru's relatives had already returned to Xinjiang town. Those who stayed were Gu Yunjian's friends and family, especially Gu Yunjian's comrades. They were all vowing to snatch the brides who had returned to their bridal chamber. There was an unwritten rule when people of Longmen City got married. On the night after the wedding ceremony, when the bride returned to her bridal chamber, the groom's relatives and friends could rush into the bridal chamber to snatch the bride and bridesmaids. Those who snatched the bride or bridesmaids out of the bridal chamber and carried them downstairs would receive a huge gift from the groom. Of course, it was not just those who snatched the bride and bridesmaids out of the bridal chamber. When the adults snatched the bride and bridesmaids out, the children could rush into the bridal chamber. As long as they carried a dowry pillow out, they would be rewarded with gifts such as cigarettes and a big bag of wedding candies. This was an unwritten game during weddings in Longmen City. Of course, some wealthy families might not like it. It was considered a game as well. At most, it was to join in the fun and have fun. It was also commonly known as nuptials. Chapter 1102.
Charge.
Let's snatch the bride. A large group of people rushed into the villa noisily. It was a spectacular scene. Yunjian paused for a moment when the group of men rushed into the villa. In the next second, she couldn't help but grab Si's hand and run towards the villa as well. The night was always quiet, but at this moment, it was wrapped in something called happiness. It gave people endless joy. When Yunjian held Si's hand and ran into the villa first, Ge Yunjian's comrades had already successfully snatched the bride downstairs. Ge Junjian also participated. Of course, he wasn't trying to snatch the bride. Instead, he was trying to stop his comrades from snatching the bride. However, in the end, his comrades still managed to snatch the bride downstairs noisily. Yunjian didn't do anything when her mother was snatched downstairs. This was just a game used to add to the fun, so she naturally wouldn't participate. Sister, I snatched a big pillow. Me too. I snatched a big water bottle. I got slippers. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were holding their spoils of war. When they saw Yunjian, the three of them ran over. Yunjian was almost amused by the three of them. Qin Yuru and Ge Junjian were getting married. This was their home. How could they snatch things from their own home? However, Yunjian didn't expose the three of them. You're amazing. Si reached out and patted Xiao Yunju, who was the closest to him. He praised Xiao Yunju very generously. Brother Si is amazing too, Xiao Yunju said embarrassedly. Then, Xiao Yunju walked over to Yunjian. He held Yunjian's hand and placed it in Si's big palm. Big brother Si praised me, so I gave my sister to big brother Si, Xiao Yunju said. Without waiting for Yunjian to react and deal with him, he ran away with Duanli and Duanya. Yunjian pursed her lips. She did not notice that Si had raised her eyebrows again. The bustling bridal chamber was also over. Those who had robbed the bridal chamber also took their trophies, such as wedding candies, cigarettes, pillowcases, and other things, and went home one after another. The night soon quieted down. Logically speaking, Yunjian should live in Ge Yunjian's house. After all, Qin Yuru was now married to Ge Junjian, so naturally, she should live here with him. However, Si pulled Yunjian along and drove the Lamborghini away from Ge Yunjian's house. Qin Yuru was very relieved that Yunjian was going out with Si. At this moment, Yunjian was sitting in Si's car. After the car drove out of Ge Yunjian's house, it quickly stopped in front of a villa that was very close to Ge Yunjian's house, but was even more luxurious than Ge Yunjian's house. Then, he pulled Yunjian into the huge villa. Do you like it? Si pulled Yunjian into the villa. The interior looked brand new. It was not hard to tell that this villa had just been renovated. This is... Yunjian raised her eyebrows. We'll live here in the future. It'll only belong to the two of us. Si opened the door of the villa and led Yunjian inside. Then Si paused and said, It'll only take 3 minutes to walk to Uncle Ji's house from here. You can go there at any time. So, he had long planned to buy the surrounding land and had people build this villa a long time ago? Yunjian stared at Si for a few seconds. At this moment, the surroundings were very quiet. The dim yellow light from the ceiling shone down and enveloped Yunjian, making her look exceptionally alluring. The door was tightly shut. Chapter 1103. Xiao Jian. Yi was on top of Yun Jian. His manly voice drifted to Yun Jian's side, making Yun Jian's rosy cheeks flush even deeper. Get up. I'm going to sleep. Yun Jian blushed and pushed Yi's chest casually, but Yi pinned her down on the sofa with no intention of getting up. Yi had already bent down to put his head close to Yun Jian's neck, brushing his lips softly across Yun Jian's collarbone. Yun Jian shuddered. He pressed down on her like this, and she could even feel a certain part of his desire pressing against her embarrassing place, gradually expanding. Xiao Jian. While Yun Jian was still in a daze, Yi had already reached her earlobe and kissed her delicately. Don't do this, I still have school tomorrow. Just as Yun Jian said that, Yi's large palms had already caressed a certain point of hers. Moreover, his large palms still passed through her clothes and grasped the delicate point of light without any obstruction. Just as Yun Jian pressed down on Yi's hand that was moving about, she felt a chill below her. In the next second, Yi had already removed the pants that were covering her legs. His hands caressed her skin gently. His hands were icy cold, causing Yun Jian to shudder every time they touched her. Yun Jian had to admit that while she resisted Yi, she was also looking forward to it. It was as if she was anticipating something. In the end, Yun Jian stopped resisting and allowed him to touch every inch of her skin. Other than the last step, Yun Jian was sure that this was the most shameful thing she had ever done in both her past and present life. The next day, Yun Jian went back to school, as usual. In the morning, it was Yi who drove her to school. After May 21st, the next day was May 22nd. The midterms were set to be in the latter half of June, which meant that the exams would start on June 18th and end on the 20th. These few days, the students in school were crazily memorizing their books in an attempt to make the final push. There were only 3 days left until the midterms. Chen Xinyi asked Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofeng, Zhang Jian, and Ling Yichen to go to her house to study together. Chen Xinyi had missed a month's worth of homework due to her suicide attempt a while ago. This was fatal to the students who were about to take the midterms. Therefore, Yun Jian and the others went to Chen Xinyi's house to tutor her. Without a care in the world, Yun Jian sat on the sofa and watched Chen Xinyi and the rest study diligently. Chen Xinyi envied Yun Jian for being able to achieve such good results while studying even more diligently. Halfway through, Chen Xinyi's mother, Xia, came in with a plate of sliced pineapples. Seeing how hardworking the children were, she couldn't help but say, "The snacks are here. The snacks are here. Let's all take a break. Don't give yourself too much pressure. Just treat the middle school entrance exam as normal." After saying that, Xia placed the plate on the coffee table in front of them and walked out. When they were eating fruits, they finally calmed down. Huff, huff, I'm so tired, so tired. Ling Yichen used a toothpick to skewer a piece of pineapple and chewed it. Then, Ling Yichen looked at the people around him. It wasn't easy for him to have some free time. In his exhaustion, he naturally had to set a pleasant and relaxing goal so that he could continue working hard in the long and arduous period ahead. Therefore, Ling Yichen asked everyone something they had been looking forward to. What are your plans after the midterms? Of course we're going to eat and drink to our heart's content. Chen Xinyi's eyes lit up at the mention of this. After the group finished talking, it was Yun Jian's turn. Yun Jian suddenly remembered that Chu Ning and the others had invited her to Min City's military academy after the midterms. Chapter 1104. Ling Yichen and the rest were well aware that Yun Jian would be going to Min City. After all, Yun Jian would be going to Min City's military academy after graduation, so it was necessary for her to understand the situation there first. Therefore, Ling Yichen and the rest looked like they understood the situation very well. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, however, Chen Xinyi pouted. Jian, these are our last 3 days in school. I can't bear to. Chen Xinyi pouted at Yun Jian and said reluctantly, "Oh my, Min City isn't far from Longmen City. I heard that in Min City's military academy, as long as you're capable, you're qualified to request for skipping classes. Yun Jian's so good. She can come back anytime with a simple request.
Haha. Let's get together again then.
Ling Yichen patted Chen Xinyi's shoulder and said generously. In spite of it, he was actually a little reluctant. Everyone present had been with Yun Jian for more than half a year and had encountered many things along the way. Chen Xinyi, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Ling Yichen in particular were like frogs in a well when they did not know Yun Jian. In school, they were the same as the other students, only knowing a little. Since they got to know Yun Jian, however, they had seen many things that most people would never be able to touch in their entire lives. Although it was dangerous, Chen Xinyi and the other two had no regrets. All right, it's not like Master is going to leave. Hurry up and eat. We'll continue learning when we're done. Zhang Xiaofeng was reluctant as well, but like Ling Yichen, he could not bear to see Chen Xinyi cry, so he comforted her. Then, all of them were fully immersed in their studies. After leaving Chen Xinyi's house and parting ways with Ling Yichen and Zhang Jian, Yun Jian headed home. It was the weekend, and it was 6:00 in the evening. It was the end of spring, and the days were getting longer. Even when it was 7:30, the sun's rays could still be seen before it set. At 6:00, the sky was as bright as the day. Yun Jian walked along the streets just like that. Ah, Li Hang. It's Li Hang. I actually saw Li Hang.
Ah.
It's like I'm dreaming. Oh, my darling. I love him so much. I'm so excited. I actually saw my idol in person. In person. Suddenly, the girl's high-pitched screams came from the front. Then, Yun Jian saw a large crowd ahead of her, blocking her path.
Li?
Once she heard the name, she remembered who he was. Yun Jian had a good memory. Wasn't this Li Hang the same actor who had hit on her when she went to Baiguang Model Agency to rescue Chen Xinyi? Judging by the crowd, he should be rather famous. However, this person wanted to touch her, but before he could, Ce broke his wrist. Yun Jian did not have a good impression of this male celebrity called Li Hang. She turned around and was about to leave. Hey, it's you. A male voice sounded. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. Before she could take a step, she caught a glimpse of Li Hang, who was surrounded by the crowd, walking over. Li Hang's bodyguards pushed the crowd aside, allowing Li Hang to see Yun Jian. When Li Hang saw Yun Jian, he was stunned. In the past few months, a slender figure had appeared in his mind. That person was Yun Jian. Back then, Ce broke his wrist, causing him to have to recuperate for a long time. He had been brooding over this matter, thinking that the next time he saw Yun Jian, he would use her as his sex toy. He was going to turn Yun Jian into his venting object and capture Ce to break all his meridians. He was going to show Ce the despair he felt when he took his woman as his own. Li Hang had been looking for Yun Jian for a long time, but he couldn't find her. Chapter 1105. It could be said that Yun Jian's cold and arrogant personality and the way she swung the butterfly knife to kick the guards away, even using it to slash the clothes of the guards who tried to stop her at the entrance of Baiguang Model Agency. If the knife had slid in a little more or stabbed deeper, the guards would have been dead. Yun Jian's movements were uncanny, but it was this uncanny ability that gave people endless room for imagination. It even made Yun Jian look mysterious, which was why Li Hang was attracted by Yun Jian's mysteriousness and could not forget her for a long time. Li Hang thought that he must have been possessed. He had not slept well for the past few months. Closing his eyes, his mind was filled with the image of Yun Jian's slender figure and perfect figure, as well as her stunning face. She was so mesmerizing and gentle. Li Hang had never been one to let himself be wronged. He had long sent people to search for Yun Jian's whereabouts. Usually, it was a piece of cake for him to find a girl in Longmen City with his influence. However, in the process of searching for Yun Jian, it was as if someone had purposely erased Yun Jian's whereabouts when his men were searching for her. It was as if she was not from Earth at all. Li Hang could not find Yun Jian no matter how hard he tried. Therefore, Li Heng was overjoyed to see Yun Jian today. When Yun Jian saw Li Heng rushing toward her, she narrowed her eyes and curled her lips into a mocking smile, but it was gone in a flash. She didn't pay any attention to Li Heng at all, and was about to walk forward. Li Heng felt a blow to himself when he saw that Yun Jian was ignoring him. Looking at the group of girls around him, which one of them was not screaming and jostling to rush to him when they saw him? They looked like they did not even care about their lives. What about her? How dare she ignore him? Li Heng was indignant and ran to Yun Jian to stop her. "Beauty, why are you leaving when you see me? Have you forgotten about me? We met last time in Baiguang." In order to show off his handsomeness, Li Heng deliberately flipped his short hair. This action of flipping her short hair caused a large group of girls around her to scream. Li Heng became even more arrogant. Although the man who appeared last time was taller and more handsome than him, could he have as many female fans as him? It wasn't that Li Heng wanted to brag, but if he needed it, every single girl standing here would be willing to obediently spread their legs and lie on the bed like a pug, begging him to take them. Li Heng had also slept with a few female fans in the past. Later on, when those female fans got pregnant, he even forced them to have an abortion. One of them even lost her right to be a mother forever, because she had an abortion. In the end, Li Heng's manager forced him to do so with money. Li Heng's actions caused the girls present to scream, but it didn't affect Yun Jian at all. Li Heng was looking forward to it, thinking that Yun Jian would definitely be attracted by his handsome and charming side, like those beautiful female fans of his in the past, in front of Li Heng and all the surrounding fans, including Li Heng's manager. Everyone thought that Yun Jian would faint from happiness after being hit on by Li Heng like this. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian glanced at Li Heng coldly and said, "Get out of my way. Get out of my way. You're blocking my way." As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, the surrounding people were so shocked that their breathing stopped. She actually spoke to the superstar Li Heng like this. Chapter 1106. Yun Jian suddenly recalled the time when she had entered Baiguang Model Agency to save Chen Sini. Chen Sini had been lying helplessly on the ground, staring at one spot with a hopeless expression. Her wrist had been cut, and fresh blood was flowing out. It was a ghastly sight, but it was so tenacious that it made one feel sorry for her. Li Heng was also an actor from Baiguang Model Agency. Because Baiguang Model Agency had offended Yun Jian back then, Baiguang Model Agency had closed down. Li Heng's contract with Baiguang Model Agency had naturally been terminated midway. And for a big star like Li Heng, without Baiguang Model Agency, he was immediately poached by another entertainment company. His current resources were even better than when he was at Baiguang Model Agency. But at the end of the day, Li Heng was an actor from Baiguang Model Agency. So when she saw Li Heng, Yun Jian felt like she was looking at Chen Sini, who was lying in a pool of blood back then. It felt as if Li Heng was also the mastermind behind Chen Sini's incident. At this moment, Yun Jian had the urge to make Li Heng bleed to death in front of her. Of course, if Li Heng had obediently stepped aside today, Yun Jian naturally wouldn't have done anything to him. But unfortunately, Li Heng was unwilling to let go now, even if he was beaten to death. The only figure that had appeared in his mind for the past few months was her. The feeling of not being able to find the person he was looking for in the vast world drove Li Heng crazy. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the surrounding fans were stunned. If it had been any other fan present who had received such attention from Li Heng, they would have probably fainted from excitement. But what about Yun Jian? Not only was she not flattered, but she even said such things to the big star Li Heng. Li Heng himself was also taken aback, but he quickly recovered his senses. He thought that Yun Jian was joking with him, so Li Heng smiled and pretended to be very gentle to Yun Jian. "Beauty, your words don't match your looks. You're pretty, so this kind of joke doesn't match you." As Li Heng spoke, he shook his head again, pretending to be very handsome. Just as he finished speaking, Yun Jian's cold voice rang in his ears again. "You don't believe me, do you?" As soon as Yun Jian's words rang out, Li Heng felt a ruthless force flying toward him. In the next second, Everyone saw Yun Jian stretch out her leg and kick Li Hang in the abdomen, knocking him to the ground. At the same time, her figure flashed and she followed closely behind, stomping her foot hard on Li Hang's abdomen.
Ah!
My hung. Seeing their idol being stepped on by Yun Jian, the fans began to scream and tried to rush over. But just as the fans rushed over, they were shocked by the shiny thing in Yun Jian's hand and stopped in their tracks. He saw that Yun Jian was holding a butterfly knife that had appeared out of nowhere and was casually swinging it twice. These fans were all frightened and stopped in their tracks. You! How dare you do this to my Hung? Li Hang's female manager was shocked. She was about to stand up and threaten Yun Jian. Before she could threaten her, Yun Jian chuckled. Why wouldn't I dare? As she spoke, she swung the butterfly knife, and the blade of the butterfly knife ruthlessly cut Li Hang's wrist. The cut was very deep, and blood gushed out. At the same time, she raised her foot, moved it from Li Hang's abdomen to the wound on his wrist, and stomped down hard. Li Hang was in so much pain that he rolled around. Seeing the blood in Li Hang's body spurting out of his wrist, everyone present turned pale with fright. Li Hang's bodyguards wanted to stop her. Chapter 1107. If Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by everyone present at the beginning, then Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by Li Hang, but Yun Jian had acted out her words. From this point alone, everyone present no longer dared to doubt Yun Jian. What a joke. Just now, they had thought that this girl looked sweet, and that her harsh words just now must have been a joke. But in the end, not only did she tell the superstar Li Hang to get lost, but Li Hang refused. She actually took out a knife from her pocket and cut Li Hang's wrist. That wasn't all. She even stepped on Li Hang's wrist. Oh my God, this could kill someone. Wasn't she afraid that someone would die? And the person being stepped on was the superstar Li Hang. Everyone present was scared silly. Even the bodyguards and his female manager, who were supposed to rush up to protect Li Hang, stood rooted to the ground in a daze. They were so overwhelmed by Yun Jian's aura that they didn't dare to move. Feeling that the blood in his body was flowing out at a rapid rate, and that no one around him dared to come and save him, Li Hang was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He was interested in Yun Jian, and this was purely on the premise that his safety could be guaranteed. But now, his safety couldn't even be guaranteed. Li Hang was extremely regretful now. He didn't expect Yun Jian to be so fierce. Last time, Ci had broken his wrist, which had scared Li Hang to the core. But this time, he originally thought that Yun Jian would be easier to deal with because she was a girl. But who would have thought that she was even more ruthless than Ci? This attack was meant to take his life. If the blood in his body ran out, even a god wouldn't be able to save him. I was wrong. Please let me go. Let me go. It's my fault. I'm a pig. I didn't know what was good for me, and wanted to hit on you. Feeling the blood in his body flowing out rapidly, Li Hang was scared. He couldn't care about anything else. He just wanted to live. So, regardless of how many reporters and fans were still looking at him, Li Hang begged Yun Jian for mercy in a cowardly tone. Seeing Li Hang beg Yun Jian for mercy in such a cowardly tone, the surrounding fans, including the female agent and the bodyguards, were all stunned. Li Hang had a handsome face and later became famous because he played a rather handsome role in a movie. He had always been sought after by fans. But now, where did the handsome man in the movie go? Everyone present suffered a heavy blow. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She was not surprised at all. After hearing Li Hang's pleas for mercy, just as Li Hang was about to faint from excessive blood loss, Yun Jian released her foot from Li Hang's wrist. He left behind a sentence that made Li Hang tremble with fear. The next time I see you, I won't be wiping your wrist but your throat. Yun Jian didn't hold back at all, so everyone present was dumbfounded as they watched Yun Jian leave. Yun Jian left quickly. Li Hang had not fainted yet. He was carefully helped up by his female agent. From now on, Li Hang's image in the hearts of his fans would definitely take a hit. Just as Li Hang was helped up and was about to be sent to the hospital, one of the onlookers suddenly recalled something. Looking at Yun Jian's disappearing back, he exclaimed in shock, "That's right. I remember now. She was the young lady who snatched the saber and killed the thugs when the mall was invaded by a few robbers half a year ago, causing a stir in Longmen City." Chapter 1108. When the person recounted how Yun Jian had killed the thugs, his voice trembled. Therefore, when these words were heard by everyone present, it was as if their hair stood on end, and they were horrified. That young lady just now was the one who caused a commotion in Longmen City half a year ago? Someone asked loudly with his mouth agape. The person who had just spoken of this matter immediately agreed with him. "It's true. I was at the scene when the thugs charged at us. You guys didn't see it, so you don't know. There was a woman who threw the young lady's mother to the thugs. Hey, guess what happened? The young lady was fighting with another thug, but when she saw that her mother was in danger, she killed the thug and blocked the knife that was coming at her mother with her hand. Tsk. That tender hand was cut and blood was still dripping. She didn't even blink. She was like an assassin agent who wasn't afraid of pain at all. She rushed up and killed all the other gangsters. She really scared us out of our wits. That ruthlessness didn't seem like a teenage girl at all." When the person saw that everyone was listening to him, even the celebrity Li Hang was looking at him, he spoke more enthusiastically. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard what the person said. No wonder Yun Jian said what she did just now. No wonder she dared to hurt Li Hang. Why would she be afraid of him when she could even kill someone? Li Hang felt a shudder run through him. The female manager beside him had already covered the wound on his wrist. The blood had stopped flowing. Once he thought of Yun Jian's ruthlessness just now, he felt a chill run down his spine. She had actually killed someone. She actually knew how to kill. Li Hang was suddenly glad that Yun Jian had let him go just now. Li Hang had just calmed down a little when someone else seized the opportunity to bring up the matter again. Since he was aware of it himself, he continued. "My dad has a friend who works in the police station. The incident back then was a big deal. I heard that the young lady has some status in the military. She seems to be a special forces soldier. Her specific identity is kept secret by the higher-ups, so she can be considered to have acted impartially by killing him." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was completely dumbfounded. Was that little girl from the military? At such a young age, he was actually a soldier. If those present knew that Yun Jian was the famous slashing god from Team Monarch, they would probably have gone crazy and chased after Yun Jian for her autograph. The celebrity Li Hang was well known, but in Longmen City, Yun Jian's Team Monarch slashing god was even more famous than celebrities in the entertainment industry. She was really good at it. At the same time, Yun Jian, who was capable of real combat, had returned home, a home that belonged to her and C. It was only a 3-minute walk from here to Go Yunjian's house. Although this place was secretly built by CE behind Yun Jian's back, Go Yunjian knew about it right from the start. Considering that Yun Jian did not want to be too far away from Qin Yiru, CE had discussed with Go Yunjian when he built this place, and even got Go Yunjian to give up an empty plot of land in his villa. From here to Go Yunjian's house, one could take a shortcut to Go Yunjian's villa through the side door. It was also due to Go Yunjian's strong support that CE could build his and Yun Jian's villa not far away from Go Yunjian's house. It was convenient to walk there as well. Yun Jian put down her bag. CE was not at home at the moment, so she went to Go Yunjian's house. Just as she reached Go Yunjian's house, she saw Qin Yiru doing chores inside. Qin Yiru was stunned when she saw Yun Jian before asking, "Didn't AE come back with you?" Chapter 1109. Yun Jian could not help twitching the corners of her lips at Qin Yiru's words. She was her biological daughter, right? Why was Qin Yiru nagging about CE instead of worrying about her when she stepped into the house? "He's gone out," Yun Jian said after a pause despite what she thought. "I see." Qin Yiru did not stop mopping the floor. It had been a while since they got married. Go Xian had gone back to school overseas after the wedding. Now that Chinyiru was nourished by love, her complexion were much better than before. Xiao Jian, dinner's ready. Let's wait for Ae to come home before we eat, Chinyiru said as she came over after mopping the floor and wiping her wet hands. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Xiao Yunju and the others were playing upstairs, so Chinyiru had nothing to do after mopping the floor. Hence, she went to Yun Jian. Hey, Xiao Jian, how's Ae getting along with you now? Chinyiru asked as she held Yun Jian's hand. It's pretty good, Yun Jian answered after pause. It was almost 3 days before the middle school exams, but Chinyiru was not like other mothers who were worried about Yun Jian's results. On the contrary, she did not mention anything about the results. Ae is someone worth trusting. You can hold on to him tightly. Don't let him run away. Chinyiru said earnestly and looked at Yun Jian with a gaze that she had never shown before. Yun Jian was a little stunned by Chinyiru's stare. Mom, I know, Yun Jian replied. Ae's already 20. He's a man, so there's always a need for puberty. Xiao Jian, don't throw a tantrum. I think Ae's a good kid, even if... Anyway, the two of you are going to be married in the future. If there's anything before marriage, it's fine. As long as you take proper protective measures, it will be fine. It's fine if she gets pregnant. After she gives birth, I'll have nothing to do. It'll be more fun raising a child. Chinyiru thought that Ce had already slept with Yun Jian, and now Yun Jian was living under the same roof as Ce. There were only the two of them in the house. Of course, Chinyiru knew Ce's character, so she said those words. It could be said that Chinyiru already treated Ce as her son-in-law. In spite of it, Yun Jian's cheeks were as red as an apple when she heard Chinyiru's words. She did not expect Chinyiru to say something like that to her. Yun Jian could kill without batting an eyelid and be fearless in the face of danger. Yet, she blushed when she heard such things. When Chinyiru saw that Yun Jian did not say anything, she spoke even more enthusiastically. It was only when Ce entered the house that Chinyiru stopped talking. Go Jun Jian was busy with military matters now, so sometimes he did not even come home. Chinyiru could understand that. Chinyiru stopped talking when she saw Ce. Then, Chinyiru called Xiao Yunju and the others down to have dinner around the table. Before returning to her and Ce's private villa, Chinyiru mysteriously called Ce out for a few minutes. She did not allow Yun Jian to listen in. When they returned to her and Ce's home, Yun Jian turned to look at Ce and asked, "What did my mom say to you just now? Do you want to know?" Ce curled his handsome lips mysteriously and said. Yun Jian nodded her head. Just as she nodded, Ce pulled her into his embrace. Then, he turned sideways and whispered something into Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian's face instantly turned red when she heard this. Chapter 11:10. When you do it, make sure it's dirty. Yun Jian blushed at what Chinyiru said to Ce. Ce smiled at the sight before cupping Yun Jian's cheeks and kissing her. Ce only gave Yun Jian a peck. He did not do anything else. His Xiao Jian was still young. 3 days passed in a flash and the senior high school entrance exam came as promised. The day of the senior high school entrance exam was unusually hot, probably the hottest day since the new year. In spite of it, the students persevered through the 3 days of senior high school entrance exam. Yun Jian was always the first to finish the senior high school entrance exam. The other students were afraid that they would perform poorly during the exam, so they checked their papers multiple times. What about Yun Jian? She did not even have to check her papers after she was done. Just as the 3 days of exams ended, Chen Xini, Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Zhang Jian could finally relax from their hard work. Once the exams were over, the students packed up all their belongings in school and brought them home. The end of the senior high school entrance exam meant that Yun Jian and the others had their break 2 weeks earlier than their usual summer break. Of course, they still had to make a trip back to school when the results of the senior high school entrance exam were released. Their classmates were about to enter different senior high schools. It was their parents who came to school to help carry the huge pile of textbooks. On the day after school ended, Ce drove over to help Yun Jian. CE returned to an Hun group the next day. Taking advantage of the break, Yunjian carried a small travel bag with a lot of things and left for Min City early in the morning. Yunjian went alone. Of course, she was going to Min City purely because she had promised Chu Ning and the others that she would go for a vacation. Since the summer break was not here yet, Yunjian had her break 2 weeks earlier than usual, so Chu Ning and the others were still in school. When Yunjian arrived, she directly called Chu Xiangnan, who had a mobile phone. Chu Ning and the others were still in class. When they heard that Yunjian was coming over, they immediately sent Chu Ning to the entrance of the military academy to pick up Yunjian. Originally, outsiders were not allowed to enter the military academy, but Chu Ning had talked to the guard for a long time. In the end, when the guard found out that Yunjian was part of the next batch of students to be admitted, he finally let her in. Phew, I finally brought you in. Chu Ning wiped the sweat off her forehead and led Yunjian to the military academy's training field. The other 5 members of Team Monarch were training on the field. Hearing Chu Ning's words, Yunjian stared at Chu Ning for a few seconds, then pulled away the red arc and sighed. You've gotten darker. Chu Ning was stunned for a moment before she realized that Yunjian was talking about her. She even patted Yunjian on the shoulder and said with a laugh, "Don't say it out loud." Then, Chu Ning brought Yunjian to the field. After meeting up with the other members of Team Monarch, the group sat on the field that stretched as far as the eye could see, basking in the scorching sun. We don't have classes at night. Yunjian, where do you want to go? Do you want to walk around the streets of Min City? Or do you want to walk around our school first? Chu Xiangnan said with a laugh. Don't interrupt. Silly Chu Xiangnan. Chu Ning snickered at Chu Xiangnan. That was the new nickname she came up with for Chu Xiangnan, Chu Nan. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled. Just as the group of people were laughing and making a ruckus, a sarcastic voice came from behind them. Yo, isn't this our famous Team Monarch?
Huh?
Where did this little beauty come from? Hearing that, Yunjian turned around with Chu Ning and the others to see a ruffian boy taunting Chu Ning and the others while trying to flirt with Yunjian. Chapter 11:11. This ruffian was the guy from the Invincible Gang whom Chu Ning and the others had mentioned to Yunjian when they returned to Xinjiang town. The guy was just an errand boy for the Invincible Gang named Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei and everyone in the Invincible Gang were proud to be a part of the gang. That was because the Invincible Gang had a super powerful existence. Chu Ning had mentioned this super powerful person to Yunjian before. She said that Chu Ning and the others were no match for that super powerful person even when they teamed up. Other than Jiang Weiwei, everyone else was defeated. Even Jiang Weiwei was almost injured. One had to know that Jiang Weiwei was not weak. She was ranked second in Team Monarch in terms of strength. However, even when she and Chu Ning and the others teamed up, they could not defeat that person from the Invincible Gang. One could only imagine how powerful that person was. It was precisely because they had such a powerful member who could wipe out Team Monarch, a team that was rumored to be so amazing that the Invincible Gang could be so fearless. Take Peng Jingwei, for example. He was just an errand boy for the Invincible Gang, but he dared to speak to Chu Ning and the others in such a tone. It was all because the Invincible Gang had that person who defeated Chu Ning and the others alone. The Invincible Gang was extremely smug now. Peng Jingwei was indeed arrogant. He thought that the Invincible Gang was really invincible. Therefore, when he saw the Team Monarch members sitting on the field, he could not help but want to rush over and taunt them. However, he did not expect to see Yunjian among the Team Monarch members. Peng Jingwei was stunned. There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. Moreover, she was different from those girls and women who relied on makeup and fashionable clothes on the streets. Yunjian's beauty was pure and natural. Peng Jingwei was completely mesmerized. That was why he leaned over to hit on her. Logically speaking, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning should have hurled insults at him on the spot. However, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning snorted. Puffed. Chu Ning burst out laughing. Of all people, Peng Jingwei had to say that Team Monarch was trash to Yunjian? It was as if he was telling the strongest boss of Team Monarch that his team was trash and that he should leave with him. After laughing, Chuning pursed her lips and turned to Yunjian. After a while, she said, "Ignore him. He's trash himself." Chuning and the others were used to the Invincible Gang's mockery. They couldn't be bothered with the people from the Invincible Gang now. In private, they trained as hard as they could in order to improve their skills so that they could defeat the people from the Invincible Gang. Just as Chuning finished speaking and Yunjian ignored him, Peng Jingwei panicked. I say, your Team Monarch is so trashy. Don't bring the beauty with you guys, Peng Jingwei said as he turned his sly gaze to Yunjian. Little beauty, aren't you blind to be with trash like Team Monarch when you're so pretty?
Come with me.
I'm from the Invincible Gang. It's the best team in our military school. Hey, what do you think?
Peng Jingwei said.
He even wanted to reach out his hand that was as ugly as a black man's to hold Yunjian's hand. Yunjian frowned in disgust. She sat on the grass and did a light flip to avoid Peng Jingwei's hand. Under Peng Jingwei's watchful gaze, she stood up and sneered. If my Team Monarch is trash, your Invincible Gang is worse than trash. Peng Jingwei shuddered at the mention of Team Monarch. What did she say? Chapter 11-12. She's from Team Monarch? Peng Jingwei's eyes widened in shock. There were 7 members in Team Monarch and Chuning, and the other 5 were already enrolled in the military academy. Due to his frequent encounters with Chuning and the other 5, Peng Jingwei had completely overlooked the fact that Team Monarch had a powerful slashing god. In Peng Jingwei's subconscious mind, there were only 6 members in Team Monarch, and these 6 were the ones who had been beaten to a pulp by the Invincible Gang's leader. With Yunjian's appearance today, Peng Jingwei had assumed that she was one of the Team Monarch's relatives who had come to Min City for a vacation after the midterms. That was why he had said what he had said earlier. Who would have thought that Yunjian would say something like Team Monarch? If she was from Team Monarch, could she be the most powerful slashing god in Team Monarch? With her frail and weak body? Uft! Did you hear that? Don't compare Team Monarch with your trashy Invincible Gang. Invincible Gang. What a country bumpkin name. Get the hell away from me, as soon as possible. What's there to be smug about? Chuning patted her, but to get rid of the grass that stuck to her pants on the lawn. She stood up and walked to Yunjian's side to wrap her arm around Yunjian's shoulder as she sneered at Peng Jingwei. One could lose in terms of strength, but not in terms of confidence. This sentence was verified by Chuning. Chuning's words were bold. Just as Chuning finished her sentence, Chu Xiangnan, who was sitting on the ground, stood up and walked to Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei was a grown man with a height of only 1.6 meters. Chu Xiangnan's height was enough to look down on him. Get lost, ****. What bullsh** T Invincible Gang. I think you should just change your name to Trash Gang. Chu Xiangnan continued Chuning's words and yelled at Peng Jingwei. As he yelled, Chu Xiangnan even clenched his fist at Peng Jingwei, his knuckles cracking. Seeing Chu Xiangnan gesturing at him like that, Peng Jingwei gulped in fright. The only reason he could be so smug was because he was a member of the Invincible Gang. Peng Jingwei himself was not that capable. Therefore, when Chu Xiangnan gestured at him, he was so scared that he took 3 steps back. Then, he pointed at Chu Xiangnan and the others and threatened them in an exaggerated tone. You wait. After saying that, Peng Jingwei was so scared that he turned and ran away. You're such a coward. Perhaps it was because Yunjian and all 7 members of Team Monarch were present, but Chu Xiangnan felt much more confident. He laughed out loud when he saw Peng Jingwei running away. Chu Xiangnan even flashed his middle finger at the spot where Peng Jingwei had fallen. After that, he turned to look at Yunjian. He patted his chest with a laugh and asked, What do you think, Yunjian? Was I particularly domineering just now? When Chuning heard that, she also rushed to say, He's not as good as me. Then, the 2 of them stared at Yunjian's glittering eyes, waiting for her comment. However, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She curled her lips slightly, then calmly said, "Very naughty." After hearing Yun Jian's comment, Jiang Weiwei laughed out loud. Apart from Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan's group of clowns, the others laughed. At the side of a small path near a small forest in the school, a group of youthful boys and girls were standing there. All of them sat obediently on the grass, talking to a girl who was standing high above. It felt like a group of gang members were having a gathering. Suddenly, a figure rushed over recklessly. Chapter 11:13. Peng Jingwei paused when he heard the girl's low growl. Then, he slowly walked over. It was obvious that this girl held a high position in the Invincible gang. "Miss Chi, I saw something incredible just now, so I wanted to come back quickly to report it to you. That's why I left so quickly," Peng Jingwei said. Just as he said this, the girl called Chi interrupted him. All right. Hurry up and say it. What incredible thing." This girl was called Gu Qixi. She was the only daughter of the big boss of Min City's coal industry. She was a well-known figure in the military academy. This identity, coupled with her innate arrogance, made everyone present dare not speak up even if they were angry. They could only submit to her. At the same time, the reason why everyone present listened to this girl was purely because Gu Qixi was not only the vice president of the Invincible Gang, but more importantly, she was also the younger sister of the Invincible Gang's president. Of course, Gu Qixi was not the biological sister of the Invincible Gang's president, but the daughter of the Invincible Gang's president's family. To put it bluntly, she was the daughter of her father's business friend. As for the president of the Invincible Gang, he was also the strongest president of the Invincible Gang that Chu Ning said had defeated Chu Ning and 6 others single-handedly. His name was Duan Xinchen. Now, the Invincible Gang still looked like a proper gang, like a cult. Everyone in the Invincible Gang sat on the lawn, listening to the Vice President Gu Qixi's teachings. After being interrupted by Gu Qixi, Peng Jingwei hurriedly told her what had happened. Initially, when he mentioned Yun Jian, Peng Jingwei did not think that she was the killing god of Team Monarch. When Gu Qixi and the rest of Invincible Gang heard Peng Jingwei's words, they did not think that Yun Jian had anything to do with Team Monarch. However, when he mentioned Yun Jian's appearance, Peng Jingwei even made a very righteous comparison. "That beauty, TSK, I've never seen such a beautiful girl in my life." As he said that, Peng Jingwei was intoxicated. Hearing this, Gu Qixi was a girl herself. She was very dissatisfied and asked with a hint of jealousy, "Is she really that beautiful? What about me?" It was just a casual remark, but he did not expect Peng Jingwei to recall Yun Jian's beauty the moment he opened his mouth. He could not help but blurt out, "They're not on the same level. Her beauty is really..." Before he could finish, Gu Qixi kicked Peng Jingwei away. Fuming, she led a group of people to Yun Jian's side, grumbling angrily, "What the hell? I want to see just how beautiful she is." Yun Jian had no idea that someone was leading dozens of people and was angrily rushing towards her. As it turned out, a girl's jealousy was terrifying. This was especially true for girls who were in puberty. They could develop to the point of no return just because of a small matter. At this moment, Yun Jian had already followed Chu Ning and the others to the military academy's canteen. It was already noon, time for lunch. In high school, one could order their own food and pay by swiping their card. Yun Jian was a guest, so of course, Chu Ning and the others fought to treat her. Looking at the big lunchbox that Chu Ning had ordered for her, consisting of 4 to 5 servings of meat and 2 to 3 servings of vegetarian food, Yun Jian paused. For ordinary students, they would order at most 1 meat and 1 vegetarian dish. Hee, let's eat. Chu Ning extended her chopsticks and called out. Then, she dug into the food in her lunchbox. During lunch, Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan kept talking to Yun Jian about the Invincible Gang. "Yun Jian, you don't know this, but the Invincible Gang formed this gang because of us. Team Monarch." They didn't have a gang name at first. In the end, because Team Monarch had a name, they followed suit. Chapter 11:14. Chuning said with great interest. She even laughed a few times as she spoke. The Invincible Gang did not form a gang. When Chuning and the rest first entered the school, Gu Qixi's gang got into a fight with Chuning and the rest. They were even beaten up by Chuning and the rest. They thought that after being beaten up, Gu Qixi's gang would not dare to cause trouble again. Who would have thought that Gu Qixi would ask Duan Qinshan, a senior who was in his second year and about to enter his third year, to help? Duan Qinshan had been in the military school for almost 2 years. In addition, he was a martial artist who had been trained since he was young. It was said that he had learned martial arts from a martial arts master, so he was even more powerful. Chuning and the rest fought with Duan Qinshan openly and lost. In the end, the 6 of them were no match for Duan Qinshan. Since then, Gu Qixi's gang started to show off. With Gu Qixi as the leader, they started the current Invincible Gang. Gu Qixi even made Duan Qinshan the president of the Invincible Gang and recruited people from the military school. This was done in a hurry. However, Gu Qixi and the rest started the Invincible Gang purely because Chuning and the rest had a team monarch. They felt that Chuning and the rest had a team, and that sounded cool, so they started a gang too. They're just following the trend and foolishly following us. They don't even know if they're authentic. Haha. Chuning and Chu Xiangnan spoke one after another and recounted everything that had happened in the military school. Yunjian, don't you think so? At the end of her story, Chuning looked at Yunjian, who was sitting opposite her. She took a bite of lean meat and said with a grin. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled faintly. She indeed felt that what Chuning said about the Invincible Gang was a little funny. It felt like children playing house. However, after Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled faintly, she said, "Let's eat." She had just scooped up a mouthful of bean and was about to put it into her mouth when she suddenly raised her eyebrows. Bam!
Bang! Bang! Bang!
The sound of tables and chairs being overturned came from behind. After a pause, an unpleasant female voice came from behind. Did your team monarch bully our Invincible Gang's Pungjingwei? Do you have a death wish? Do you think you haven't been beaten up enough by the Invincible Gang? If you want to cause trouble, you have to find a good reason. Gu Qixi took advantage of the fact that Pungjingwei had been chased away by Chu Xiangnan to stir up trouble. Most of the students in the military academy were male, and all of them were quite strong. Therefore, when they saw Gu Qixi leading a group of people to surround the Team Monarch members, not only were they not afraid, but they even squeezed over, intending to watch the show. F***Sika. When did we bully that guy? He was the one who didn't have eyes and rushed over to criticize my Yunjian. Chuning was angered by Gu Qixi's words and immediately slammed the table and stood up. Team Monarch is just a loser to us. We don't need to F***CK with you. Gu Qixi heard Chuning's words. She could not see Yunjian's face, but she could see Yunjian's slender figure. Jealousy welled up in her, and she could not help but open her mouth to spew hatefully. Just as Gu Qixi finished saying, Team Monarch is a loser to us, Yunjian, who had her back to Gu Qixi, suddenly flung the spoon in her hand away and stood up abruptly. The metal spoon that Yunjian flung away flew not far away and actually pierced into the wooden dining table right under everyone's eyes. Pierced into the wood. The spoon actually pierced into the dining table with a fling. How strong was this girl's wrist? Everyone on the scene was shocked. However, Yunjian, who had her back to Gu Qixi, turned around slowly and met Gu Qixi's eyes with her slightly raised lips. She spoke in a strange female voice. Chapter 11:15. Yunjian's frivolous words and her strange moves gave everyone in the Invincible Gang, led by Gu Qixi, a fright, including the students having lunch in the canteen. Ever since Duan Qinshan from the Invincible Gang defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch and formed the current Invincible Gang, no one in the military academy dared to challenge the Invincible Gang. Duan Qinshan's battle could be said to have made a name for himself. Therefore, even if Duan Qinshan was not often in the Invincible Gang, the students in the military academy did not dare to provoke them. Yunjian's actions just now had shocked everyone, partly because of her strange moves, and partly because why was this pretty girl so angry when she heard Gu Qixi say that Team Monarch was a defeated team? She was not even a member of Team Monarch, so why did she act as if she was? Yun Jian, well said, we're on your side. Chu Ning shouted when she heard that. That's right, Chu Xiongnan and the other members of Team Monarch agreed. When Gu Qixi saw Yun Jian's beautiful face, she was indeed filled with jealousy. Especially when she recalled what Peng Jingwei said just now, Gu Qixi had the urge to get rid of Yun Jian. Therefore, Gu Qixi clenched her fists and glared at Yun Jian. After 2 seconds of silence, she said angrily, "Huh, you're just bluffing." "Heh, it's just a bluff. Team Monarch is a loser. Everyone has seen it with their own eyes. Besides, you're an outsider. What right do you have to criticize us?" Gu Qixi wanted to curse Yun Jian, but she held it in. She felt that compared to insulting Yun Jian directly, it was more important to maintain her image as a lady. "You don't believe me, do you?" Yun Jian crossed her arms. She lifted one leg and easily placed it on a table in the canteen. Then, she extended her slender index finger and hooked it at Gu Qixi. "Let's fight if you're not convinced. Today, I'll show you trash from the trash gang what it means to be defeated," Yun Jian said, tilting her head. Her disdainful tone made Gu Qixi and the others' eyelids twitch. When Gu Qixi came back to her senses, she almost charged at Yun Jian, wanting to tear Yun Jian into pieces. What did she say? Did she say that the Invincible Gang was trash? She even said that the Invincible Gang was trash? Gu Qixi was shaking with rage. Unable to hold herself back, she was about to charge at Yun Jian when she was interrupted by Yun Jian. At the main entrance of the cafeteria, a well-proportioned and good-looking boy walked in with his back to Gu Qixi. This boy's looks were not bad, and his silhouette was quite handsome. However, when this young man of about 17 or 18 walked in, the surrounding girls screamed, "Duan Qianchen! Duan Duan Duan! Duan Duan Qian!" Duan Qian had a lot of support in the military academy. Ever since he defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, his reputation grew. When Gu Qixi heard that her savior had arrived, she quickly turned and ran to Duan Qian's side. Then, she reached out and grabbed Duan Qian's arm. She said coquettishly, "Brother Chen, someone bullied me." It's her. It's her." Hearing Gu Qixi's voice, Duan Qian frowned and turned to look. He happened to see the girl standing in front with her arms crossed. His slightly furrowed brows suddenly loosened. The moment he saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Chapter 11:16. Duan Qianchen was a rather cold boy. He looked as if he did not care about anyone or anything. It was precisely because of his cold personality that Gu Qixi was so infatuated with him and liked him so much. Although Gu Qixi and Duan Qianchen's relationship was because their parents were best friends, and the two families were business partners who interacted with each other. However, just because Gu Qixi liked Duan Qianchen did not mean that Duan Qianchen liked Gu Qixi. On the contrary, Duan Qianchen was annoyed by Gu Qixi, but he did not say it out loud. The moment Duan Qianchen saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Yun Jian crossed her arms as she scanned Duan Qianchen. Her slightly curved lips, her fair and smooth skin that was as delicate as a newborn baby's, and her delicate and beautiful face. There was no man present who would not be attracted to Yun Jian. Especially in this military academy where there were more boys than girls, even an ugly girl would be worshipped to the heavens, let alone a delicate girl like Yun Jian. Gu Qixi saw Duan Qianchen sizing up Yun Jian and became even angrier. She forced herself to resist the urge to rush up and kill Yun Jian. She held Duan Qianchen's arm and shook it, then said in an even more coquettish tone, "Brother Duan Qianchen, you bullied your sister." "Brother Chen, she just bullied your little sister Qixi. Aren't you going to avenge her?" The moment Gu Qixi called her sister Qixi, everyone around them got goosebumps. Yun Jian also frowned subtly. "Buffed, who bullied who?" "Gu Qixi, don't be the first to complain." "TSK, how disgusting." Chu Ning retorted rudely. Just as Chu Ning finished speaking, Duan Xinchen let go of Gu Qixi hand and walked over to Yunjian. Seeing this, Gu Qixi smiled slightly. She knew that her brother Chen would help her. However, just as Gu Qixi thought this, Duan Xinchen stood in front of Yunjian and asked Yunjian with a hint of indifference. "What's your name?" Yunjian crossed her arms and glanced at Duan Xinchen. In terms of aura, she did not lose to Duan Xinchen at all. "You don't need to know, because I never tell trash my surname." Yunjian's words made everyone around her stop for a moment. Was she crazy? Did she know who was standing in front of her? He was the legendary figure who defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, Duan Xinchen, who was even known as the Young God of War. When Duan Xinchen heard Yunjian's words, he raised his eyebrows and looked at Yunjian in what he thought was a cool pose. He said in a muffled voice, "Ha, interesting." Just as he finished speaking, someone pointed at the door and shouted, the instructor is here." Hearing this, everyone looked up. Yunjian also turned to look at the entrance of the cafeteria. She saw a tall and burly man in his 30s hurrying into the cafeteria with several instructors in tow. Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. The man in the lead was Yu Shaoluo, a good comrade whom Gu Junjian had invited to a banquet. Yu Shaoluo was leading the way with several instructors in tow. Just as they arrived, Yu Shaoluo looked at Yunjian delightedly. "Why didn't you tell us that you're coming to our military academy? Otherwise, we would have come to entertain you." Yu Shaoluo was one of the strictest instructors in the military academy. Hence, the moment he said that, everyone was stunned. Who was she? Why did the instructors have to entertain her now that she was here? "Instructor, she was brought into our school by Team Monarch without permission. Our school doesn't allow outsiders. Are you going to punish Team Monarch?" Seeing that the instructor had arrived, Gu Qixi did not know what was good for her and asked. Just as she said that, Yu Shaoluo frowned at Gu Qixi and snapped, "Punishment my ass. She's Team Monarch's slashing god and will be attending our school next semester. She's one of us." As soon as he said this, everyone present was stunned with fear. What? Chapter 11-17. Everyone present was stunned. After all, in their minds, Yunjian was so beautiful that her skin was so smooth that it could be broken with a snap of the fingers. She was completely different from a Special Forces soldier. Usually, girls who could become advanced Special Forces soldiers were either tanned to the point that they looked like charcoal or ugly women without any salt. What about Yunjian? From the moment everyone saw her, they thought that she must be some rich young lady who did not do any household chores. From her aura and the feeling she gave off, that was the case. However, when Yu Shaoluo and the other instructors appeared, and Yu Shaoluo's rather courteous tone towards Yunjian, everyone present was completely shocked. While they were shocked, they were also shocked and terrified. Yunjian, a girl who looked so delicate and weak, was actually Team Monarch's famous slashing god. She was Team Monarch's slashing god, the one who had caused the instructors to fight over her to join their team some time ago. Gu Qixi had initially said those words to Yu Shaoluo because she wanted to use the excuse of Chu Ning bringing Yunjian, an outsider, into their school to get Yu Shaoluo to punish Yunjian properly. However, who would have thought that instead of getting Yu Shaoluo to scold Team Monarch, she would be the one being scolded instead. Moreover, he had learned of an incredible matter. Yunjian was actually Team Monarch's slashing god. Gu Qixi's mouth, which was already slightly agape, dropped even further. As for the group from Invincible Gang, including Duan Xinchen, they were completely dumbfounded. All of them looked at the scene unfolding before them in disbelief. Compared to Gu Qixi's group, as well as the horrified expressions of the students who were watching the show, Chu Ning and the others had relaxed expressions. My Yunjian is amazing. Chu Ning stood beside Yunjian. She glanced sideways at Yunjian's flawless face and said. As Chu Ning spoke, she gave Gu Qixi a provocative look. There was a hidden smirk in his eyes that said, "Now you have nothing to say, right?" Gu Qixi had always been a competitive girl. When she caught a glimpse of Chu Ning's gaze, she felt even angrier. Although she had just expressed a strong shock at Yun Jian's identity, Gu Qixi was never a person who was willing to be at a disadvantage. To put it bluntly, he would not shed a tear until he saw the coffin. Hee. Gu Qixi first snorted coldly, then she sized up Yun Jian from head to toe. Yun Jian's frail body was on the verge of collapsing. She gave off the impression that she was a fragile girl, especially when her favorite Chingij was staring at Yun Jian intently. The adoration in his gaze was obvious. Gu Qixi was even more annoyed. Sir, is she really the legendary slashing god from Team Monarch? The other 6 members of Team Monarch were all defeated by my brother Chen alone. Moreover, a girl's strength is always weaker than a guy's. With that frail body of hers, is she really the slashing god from Team Monarch? Gu Qixi looked at Yu Shaoluo. Her tone of suspicion and anger toward Yun Jian was obvious to everyone present. Yu Shaoluo was stunned, but he quickly reacted. He looked at Yun Jian and said to Gu Qixi with unusual firmness, if it wasn't her, who else in this world could have wiped out the most powerful Flying Sky gang in Country X's H province's underground black market all by herself? And who could have gathered the Kosha mercenaries and an Hun group to join forces with the Zhe province's army to completely wipe out the international assassin group, Inferno Ring? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.